Chapter 1072. It seemed that the gravity in the remote sky secret realm was not the only abnormal place. Even the demonic beasts were much stronger than those in the outside world. Fortunately, Lin Xian had more people on his side, and there were also older generation experts. One of the elders rushed over and snorted as he punched forward. The terrifying fist brought about a strong gust of wind and blew up a demonic wolf. Seeing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were shocked by the combat power of the older generation. As expected of the older generation, their combat power was too fierce. The rest of the older generation also attacked and killed more than 10 demonic wolves in an instant. When the remaining wolves saw this scene, they were finally frightened. They quickly howled and tried to escape in all directions. Hey, these demonic wolves are ancient remnant beasts. The fur and bones on them are very strange. If this material is used to refine weapons, it should be much better than those in the outside world. A few of the older generation looked at the demonic wolves' corpses on the ground with shining eyes. After hearing this, the disciples at the back were also shocked. As expected of the remote sky secret realm, there were indeed many treasures. Just a pack of demonic wolves was an ancient remnant beast. This place was full of treasures. Of course, in order to obtain rich treasures, one had to be powerful. Without the older generation, the younger generation would have to put in a lot of effort. Next, Elder Song divided them into groups. The younger generation was divided into 3 groups, led by Lin Xian, Dugu Outyin, and Li Yunfei. The older generation experts stood guard at the side. Not long after, Lin Xian and the rest were intercepted again. It was still demonic wolves, but there were obviously more of them this time. There was even a wolf king in the group. This time, the battle was much more intense than before, and all kinds of spiritual energy radiance splashed everywhere. Lin Xian's side was also attacked, and the battle was about to start. He waved his hand, and a series of palm shadows rushed out with a terrifying icy aura. All the demonic wolves that were touched by the icy aura were quickly covered in frost. They were frozen and slowed down. Seeing this, the others attacked with all their might. Lin Xian did not fight the demon wolves with all his might. Instead, he acted as the commander, occasionally releasing his icy aura to control the entire battlefield. All of a sudden, Lin Xian's heart started pounding as a bad premonition rose from the bottom of his heart. He quickly released his soul force to scan the surroundings while shouting, "Be careful! Pay attention to the plants around you." His voice was like a clap of thunder, exploding in everyone's ears. Momentarily, the hearts of the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples shuddered as they rapidly formed a defensive barrier around their bodies. Sure enough, in the next moment, the grayish-brown plant nearby came to life. Like a demon, it kept swaying. Moreover, countless gray tree branches shot out from the ground like venomous pythons and quickly wrapped around the crowd. This change was very sudden. Some of the tree branches had black poisonous thorns on them. It was obvious that they were covered in poison. If it wasn't for Lin Xian's warning, these disciples would have long been pierced by the poisonous thorns. If that was the case, they would be in danger. However, even with Lin Xian's warning, there were still some disciples who were too slow. They did not dodge in time, and were struck by the grayish-brown vines. They were instantly sent flying. There was even a disciple whose defensive barrier was cracked. Instantly, the disciple's pupils shrank as a terrified expression appeared on his face. Fortunately, the poisonous thorns did not injure his body. However, the grayish-brown plants did not let these people go, especially the few disciples who were sent flying. Countless vines quickly wrapped around them. Seeing this, Lin Xian coldly snorted. He flicked out a thunderstorm sword ripple with his finger, which was as fast as lightning, slashing forward. Pung! The sound of an intense collision rang out. Terrifying energy spread out in all directions, instantly tearing the ground apart. Countless energy collided, forming a violent wind that swept up sand and dust, like a tornado that swept in all directions. Lin Xian's sword was very sharp. It directly cut off the grayish-brown branches. Thank you, Brother Lin." The few disciples were also frightened. They quickly retreated and joined the others. However, although everyone gathered together, they did not look good. This was because scarlet blood flowed out from the broken branches, instantly dyeing the ground red. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and felt their scalps go numb. A tree branch could actually bleed. This was the first time they had seen such a scene. Before anyone could react, a shrill cry suddenly came from the depths of the ground. Immediately after, the entire ground trembled, as if a huge monster had awakened. It quickly drilled out from the ground. The ground bulged, and then countless cracks appeared as it quickly rushed into the distance. A huge tree demon crawled up from the ground and roared ferociously. Its voice was terrifying. This tree demon was very large, almost 100 meters tall. There was a flat cut on its upper left side, which was caused by Lin Xian's sword qi. Lin Xian's sword qi had angered the tree demon below. It roared and its branches trembled. Like poisonous snakes, they quickly lashed out at the crowd. Be careful, these branches are highly poisonous. Lin Xian quickly reminded them. At the same time, he calmly dodged the attacks of the countless branches. Everyone knew how powerful it was, and did not dare to fight it head-on. They all fled. At this moment a cold shout was heard. Among the crowd, Qi Hao roared and waved his huge palm, slamming it to the left. This palm was extremely terrifying. It shook the surroundings, and the entire void was mercilessly torn apart. The blue palm was like a vast ocean, fiercely blasting towards the gray tree demon. However, the tree demon also roared. The countless branches on its body waved and quickly intertwined, forming a gray fist that blasted forward. Pung! An earth-shattering sound was heard. The tree demon's fist actually blocked the ocean blue palm shadow. Furthermore, the power formed by the countless branches even pushed Qi Hao back through the blue light pillar. Seeing this, everyone's hearts trembled. They could not believe it. Who was Qi Hao? He was an expert in the top 10 of the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. However, he was unable to take down the tree demon. This was simply too shocking. No wonder it was said that the remote sky mystery realm was extremely terrifying. Now it seemed that it was true. However, it was fortunate that Qi Hao was only pushed back and was not injured. On the other side, Lin Xian roared coldly and quickly waved his arm. Previously, he had only been in control of the situation and would only act when there was danger. However, he could not care less now. The gray tree demon's strength was beyond his expectations. He had to act quickly and defeat it. Countless pieces of ice gathered and formed an icy blue fist that blasted forward. The tree demon roared angrily. The branches on its body trembled and formed a huge gray shield in front of it. Chapter 1073. When the frost fist approached the gray shield, it suddenly disintegrated and turned into 5 ice dragons that attacked the gray tree demon from 5 different directions. This change was very sudden. The gray shield tightly blocked 2 ice dragons, but the other 3 ice dragons fiercely slammed into its body, causing it to be knocked back. The giant tree demon only stopped after taking 7 or 8 steps back. However, the ground had been trampled beyond recognition. Lin Xian furrowed his brows when he saw this. The punch just now was not simple. Even an ordinary 4th-level supremacy would have been injured. However, the gray tree demon was only forced back a few steps and did not suffer any substantial damage. This was beyond his expectations. Then, he snorted coldly, and his eyes shone with a shocking light. That punch just now was just an ordinary punch. His true strength was not just that. He dared to guarantee that the gray tree demon would not have it so easy. He bent his fingertips and the aura of wind and thunder gathered, forming a sword wave of spiritual power that swallowed the light. Then Lin Xian flicked his finger, and the wind and thunder sword wave also surged out quickly. Strong wind and lightning rushed toward the gray tree demon quickly. Not only that, but the sword wave also contained the power of the great dragon sword soul. It could be said that the attack was extremely powerful. In addition to the wind and thunder attributes, the sword wave was extremely sharp. Boom! Boom! The huge sword wave hit the gray tree body. Immediately, countless lightning bolts jumped and wild winds danced, completely enveloping the other party. However, the black tree demon roared angrily and waved all the branches on its body to resist. However, Lin Xian did not give it a chance to turn around. With a flick of his finger, terrifying sword chi surged out one after another. They intertwined in the air and quickly slashed forward. Amidst the sword chi, the giant tree demon was beaten into a sorry state and screamed in pain. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. They all looked forward with their mouths wide open in disbelief. They knew the strength of the tree demon, especially the poisonous thorns on the branches. It could be said that it was extremely terrifying. Even a 4th-level supremacy would not dare to fight it head-on. Moreover, not long ago Chi Hao, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard, had collided with the tree demon's palm and had been forced back. This further proved how powerful the tree demon was. However, such a terrifying tree demon was being beaten back repeatedly by Lin Xian, and it was in such a sorry state. This was far beyond everyone's expectations. Is this really Lin Xian? His strength is so terrifying. That's right. This sword chi is too sharp, far surpassing those of the same level. Why do I feel like he's comparable to those of the older generation? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as their scalps went numb. Among those present, only the older generation possessed such combat strength. However, Lin Xian's display of such powerful combat strength had truly shocked everyone present. However, at the moment when the crowd were discussing among themselves, those people of the older generation also arrived and began to attack. Seeing this, Lin Xian did not continue to attack. Instead, he withdrew the sword waves. In any case, with the help of these seniors, the gray tree demon would not be able to escape. So he might as well save his strength for a rainy day. As expected, under the joint attack of a few of the older generation experts, the gray tree demon shrieked in pain and was quickly torn apart. Seeing this, the crowd was still amazed. As expected of the older generation, they were simply too powerful, far surpassing the younger generation. Lin Xian was also shocked. Indeed, the combat strength of the older generation was very strong. They were not on the same level as the younger disciples. It seemed that his greatest enemy, in the obscure secret mirror this time, was the older generation of the other forces. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's heart turned heavy. He did not dare to be careless. After killing the tree demon, the older generation began to organize the tree demon's corpse as materials for refining weapons. The other younger disciples quickly sat down cross-legged to recover their strength. Not long after, the older generation finished their work. The younger generation also opened their eyes, stood up, and set off again. Along the way, the crowd did not speak. They all walked forward in silence, because they did not want to stay in the illusory sea zone any longer. Some of the wealthier younger disciples even took out demonic beasts from their demonic beast pouches as mounts. In this way, the cultivator would be able to save a great deal of strength, and they would be able to display their greatest combat strength in battle. Lin Xian rubbed his chin when he saw this scene. He had 2 demonic beasts in his possession as well. However, he thought about it and didn't take them out in the end. One of his demonic beasts was the gold-wing eagle, and the other was the gold-eye toad. However, flying was restricted in this place, so the gold-wing eagle wasn't of much use. Moreover, even though this place was called the illusory sea, the surroundings were dry like a desert. So, the gold-eye toad was probably unable to display much of its strength here. So it was better to travel on foot. At dusk, the afterglow of the setting sun, everyone's shadows were long on the ground. At this moment, the scorching temperature in the surroundings had gradually vanished, and it was replaced by a trace of gloomy coldness. Everyone was shocked when they sensed the changes in the surroundings, and they frowned. Elder Song had a solemn expression as well, and he said in a low voice, "The illusory sea zone is extremely famous. According to rumor, it's extremely hot during the day and extremely cold at night. It's even capable of freezing Exalt Realm cultivators to death. So, let's speed up and find a safe place to spend the night." Freeze Exalt Realm cultivators to death. Everyone's eyelids twitched when they heard that, and they gasped. How strong were Exalt Realm cultivators? They were powerhouses. Yet such figures could actually be frozen to death? One could imagine how terrifying the temperature was. Sure enough, as if to prove Elder Song's words, a cold wind blew in the surroundings not long after. A bone-piercing chill quickly spread, and the sand beneath their feet turned from boiling hot to icy cold. Everyone couldn't help but quicken their pace when they sensed the chill. At this moment, a cry of surprise was suddenly heard. "Damn, what's that?" A disciple pointed at the sky in the distance and shouted. There was even a trace of fear in his voice. Everyone raised their heads and looked over when they heard that. Then, they were all dumbstruck and stunned on the spot. Lin Xian was similarly shocked, and his heart thumped wildly. However, he had seen too many strange things, so even though he was shocked, he wasn't stunned. However, his expression was extremely unsightly, because a huge shadow had appeared on the horizon in the distance. It was like a dark cloud. However, relying on his outstanding soul power, Lin Xian knew that it wasn't a dark cloud at all, because the huge shadow was covered in scales, and it was very obvious that it was a demonic beast. However, this made him even more shocked, because only a portion of its body was revealed, yet it covered half the sky. Exactly how big was the demonic beast's hand? The mysterious demonic beast's huge body circled in the sky like a dark cloud, and it pressed down on everyone to the point that they couldn't breathe. Then, 2 rays of light that were like the sun appeared. Everyone knew that those were the eyes of the huge demonic beast. "Everyone be careful. Don't move," Elder Song warned coldly. Chapter 1074. Everyone be careful. Don't move, Elder Song reminded them coldly. Even though he was a powerhouse in the 6th heaven, he was still terrified by the enormous demonic beast, because its aura was too terrifying. It was like a demonic mountain that one could only look up at. Then, everyone saw that behind the huge eye, a head gradually appeared. The head was indescribable because it was too huge. Moreover, under everyone's shocked gazes, the head opened its mouth. Subsequently, a deep voice was heard. It seemed to have come from the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and it was deafening. All of a sudden, Lin Xian was shocked, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Sure enough, in the next moment, something that shocked everyone happened. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the huge head opened its bloody mouth. Subsequently, it spat out a pillar of water. It was as if the water of the Milky Way had descended from the sky. Although it was called a pillar of water, it was actually no different from the sea. In an instant, it filled the entire sky and quickly swept towards Lin Xian and the others. The aura was too terrifying, because it was not ordinary seawater. It contained a primitive aura. "Quickly defend!" Elder Song shouted. Subsequently, his spiritual power erupted and formed a huge ball of light that enveloped his body. Everyone was stunned. Soon after, they came to their senses and quickly defended their bodies with all their might. It could not be helped because they could not escape at all, because they were surrounded by seawater. Hence, they could only defend passively. Lin Xian also took a deep breath. A layer of bright red armor covered his body. On it, there was a bright red lotus that swayed rapidly. Accompanying it was a mysterious aura. Faced with an unknown danger, Lin Xian immediately activated the red lotus armor to protect his entire body. At the side, the dark red dragon also had a grave expression. However, it did not take any defensive measures because it was a king to begin with. Even though its cultivation level had dropped, its body was different from a venerable one's and could be said to be extremely tough. The seawater was terrifying, but it could not hurt it at all. Even so, he still looked around with a solemn expression. At the next moment, everyone was enveloped by endless seawater. Not only that, but the entire area was also covered by seawater. In an instant, it turned into a boundless sea. Lin Xian and the others continued to sink, but fortunately, they were not injured. The dark red divine dragon kept spitting out seawater. "Damn, I finally know why this place is called the Mirage Sea." Lin Xian was also speechless and rolled his eyes. How could he have known that such a change would occur in this place? As expected of a mystic realm passed down from ancient times, it was indeed mysterious and unpredictable. Soon, he landed at the bottom of the sea with the others. At this moment, the bottom of the sea had already changed. Due to the appearance of the seawater, the original desert had already disappeared and was replaced by a real sea. At this moment, they also seemed to be at the bottom of the sea. However, this wasn't all because undercurrents were also surging beneath the sea, and the waves were surging violently. Therefore, Everyone could only circulate their spirit energy with all their might, and firmly hold onto the ground like a boulder. Otherwise, they would be swept away by the endless seawater. Who knew where they would be swept to? Therefore, an extremely strange scene appeared. Lin Xian and the others were like statues, bitterly persevering at the bottom of the sea. Elder Song's expression was also solemn. As expected of the Mirage Sea, it was indeed as dangerous as the legends said. Everyone was also speechless. The sky was fine, so where did such a huge demonic beast come from and spit out so much seawater? However, this made them even more alarmed because in this remote sky mystic realm, there might be a huge threat at any time. The undercurrents underground became more and more rapid, and finally, like darkness, they drowned everyone. After an unknown period of time, the undercurrents gradually disappeared, and the surrounding light returned to normal. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. He looked around and then opened his mouth wide. This was because the current underwater world was completely different from when they had just come up. When they had just come down, there were undercurrents, and it was a land of death. However, it was different now, and the surrounding seawater was calm. There were countless creatures around, and what was even more shocking was that there were black shadows in front of them that were like huge mountains. However, Lin Xian's soul power was outstanding, and he could clearly sense that it wasn't an underwater volcano, but a building. Underwater buildings, and it was a stretch. This was simply too amazing. At this moment, not only Lin Xian, but the older generation figures also noticed the abnormality. They all frowned and looked ahead cautiously. Not long after, the younger disciples also noticed it, and soon, someone exclaimed, "Oh my God, the underwater world! Could this be the Dragon Palace?" The Dragon Palace. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled. At this moment another person exclaimed, "The Dragon Palace? That's a land of treasures. Could this really be a land of treasures?" Hearing this, everyone was excited. Their main purpose in coming to this remote sky mystic realm was to look for treasures. Now there was an unknown land of treasures in front of them. How could they not be excited? Lin Xian was also very surprised because he did feel a shocking energy fluctuation from the buildings in front of him. However, he didn't know whether it was a treasure or not. Elder Song, what should we do? The group of disciples looked at the older generation figures with anticipation. Elder Song and the other older generation figures quickly discussed, then nodded and decided to investigate. Suddenly everyone cheered. They quickly scouted around, and then carefully moved forward. Gradually, everyone got closer to the underground buildings. Then they exclaimed one by one. One had to admit that the buildings were too majestic. It was like a palace at the bottom of the sea, shining with colorful lights. On the walls, there were carvings of dragons, as if they were real dragons. Could this really be the Dragon Palace? Seeing this, many people swallowed their saliva. Most of the doors here were closed. Could there be some kind of restriction? Li Yunfei frowned and said, because he tried a few times and found that the doors couldn't be opened at all. The other disciples didn't believe it and tried a few times, but it was to no avail. Lin Xian frowned slightly, then quickly probed with his soul power. With his soul power that was close to that of a grade 7 alchemist, he quickly probed and found something. I found a place where there are no restrictions. Follow me, Lin Xian said. Suddenly, everyone was excited, and even the older generation figures quickly looked over. Then, under the lead of Lin Xian, everyone came to a crystal door. To their joy, the door was not closed. Chapter 1075. In the end, everyone discussed and decided to have a few older generation figures lead the way while the younger disciples followed behind. This was mainly done because the older generation figures were knowledgeable and powerful, so they could avoid danger to the greatest extent. Soon, the crowd passed through the open crystal door and walked in. After entering, everyone exclaimed again, because the inside was more like an immortal palace. All kinds of objects were exquisite and shining, as if it was a real dragon palace. Everyone walked in a long passage, and the walls on both sides were engraved with powerful sea beasts. Although they were only stone carvings, everyone could still feel a primordial aura. After carefully walking through the long passage, everyone stopped. Because in front of them was a real building complex. All kinds of pavilions, and squares were arranged in picturesque disorder. It was like a real city, but it was an undersea city. However, the only strange thing was that although it was no different from a city, there were no signs of life. It was as if it was a dead city. When everyone arrived at the real undersea city, they looked at everything around them and fell into deep shock. At this moment, Dugu Outyin said in a deep voice, "Elder Song, I seem to feel a weak spiritual power fluctuation." Hearing this, the older generation figures also frowned, because Dugu Outyin could be said to be the strongest among the younger generation. Since he said there was a fluctuation, it should be true. Soon, under Dugu Aoshan's reminder, the others also quickly sensed it. Elder Song also nodded slightly. Yes, there is indeed a spiritual power fluctuation. Lin Xian also sensed it, then raised his eyebrows because not only did he sense a spiritual power fluctuation, but he also sensed another kind of fluctuation. It was not that the others did not sense it, because among these people, Lin Xian's soul force was probably the strongest. The dark red dragon also revealed a suspicious look. Obviously, he also noticed the abnormality. Boy, be careful. I keep feeling that there is something unusual here. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded slightly and secretly became vigilant. Then, everyone set off. Their goal was, of course, the direction of the spiritual power fluctuation. They speculated that the spiritual power fluctuation was very likely to be from a treasure. Soon, Lin Xian and the others set off again. This time, the older generation led the way while the younger disciples followed behind. However, compared to the previous passage, everyone's speed was obviously faster now. However, just as they passed through a pavilion, countless blue bubbles suddenly appeared around them. The surrounding seawater seemed to be boiling and trembling violently. Not good retreat. Up ahead, Elder Song suddenly shouted anxiously. Along with this voice, countless black shadows suddenly came from all directions. Like black lightning, they quickly stabbed at everyone. Fortunately, Lin Xian and the others were no ordinary people. Their reactions were fast enough, and they quickly retreated. Dang dang dang. Clang. 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 Those black shadows all pierced into the ground, making metallic sounds. Soon after, everyone discovered that the lightning-like black shadows were none other than spears. Those long hairs were more than 10 feet long, and they were completely orchids. Strange patterns were carved on them, and there was a layer of light flowing rapidly on them. One could tell at a glance that they were filled with a ferocious aura. Seeing these blue spears, everyone's face darkened. Judging from the aura on them, these spears could definitely pose a threat to them. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned because he had sensed a similar aura from before. It seemed that the mysterious energy wave was the unknown threat before him. Sure enough, in the next moment, countless figures rushed from all directions. They held blue spears in their hands and had a fierce aura. Without a doubt, the sneak attack from before was launched by them. However, when the crowd saw those people, they were all stunned because they weren't human. They had the bodies of humans, but they had the heads of shrimps. Their arms were also covered in scales, making them look extremely strange. Damn, are they shrimp soldiers? A few disciples' eyes widened and almost bit their tongues. Elder Song quickly reminded them, "Be careful, these monsters are very strong." Before he finished his reminder, the shrimp soldiers on the opposite side launched a fierce attack. They all gave off blue devil chi and held icy cold spears as they rushed over. These shrimp soldiers were most likely from the devil race and had lived in the sea for a long time, so they were very familiar with the environment and were very agile. However, the disciples from the academy were different. After all, they were fighting underwater, and the seawater was not ordinary seawater. It also contained a terrifying desolate aura. As such, their combat strength was weaker than on the ground. As such, as soon as they started fighting, some disciples were sent flying. Luckily, there were many seniors in the group. They acted decisively and displayed their powerful combat strength, fighting against the shrimp soldiers. However, there was a limit to the seniors. Soon, a disciple was unable to dodge and was pierced by a blue spear, nailing him to the ground. Blood flowed out, dyeing the seawater red. The battle was very intense, but it ended quickly. After killing a few disciples, the shrimp soldiers quickly swam away and hid in the buildings in the distance. Seeing this, everyone's faces became gloomy. As soon as they entered the Crystal Palace, they were ambushed, and some people even lost their lives. This was not a good sign for them. Everyone be careful. This place is more dangerous than we thought. Elder Song sighed. He had entered the remote sky secret realm twice, so he was very open-minded about life and death. One must know that the remote sky secret realm was not a good place. Death was a common occurrence. They were already very lucky that only a few people died in this battle. However, it was obvious that this was only the first wave of attack. Who knew if the shrimp soldiers hiding in the dark would attack again? Lin Xian's face was also solemn. Although the battle was short, and he had killed a few shrimp soldiers, he was unable to turn the situation around. Luckily, they had more people on their side. If they really fought with their lives on the line, they would definitely be able to kill the shrimp soldiers. Next, under the lead of Elder Song and the rest, the group set off again. However, they did not walk for long before they met the shrimp soldiers again. This time, the number of shrimp soldiers was much more than before. It was almost the same as the number of disciples from the Immortal Martial Academy. Moreover, what made them even more shocked was that these shrimp soldiers were not only holding icy blue spears, but they were also wearing navy blue armor. They were like an army, with a biting cold murderous aura. Chapter 1076. At this moment, an even larger shrimp soldier walked over from afar. He was clad in azure armor, and carried a blue cape behind his back. He looked mighty and extraordinary, but his huge shrimp head made him look even weirder. The shrimp soldier who looked like a leader walked out, and stared coldly at the front. Then, he mumbled something in an unknown language. However, this wasn't a human language, so the crowd couldn't understand him. Lin Xian frowned. He didn't know this language either. However, the crimson dragon beside him jumped up and said, "Fuck! You dare to be so arrogant in front of me? You must be tired of living." "You can understand him?" a disciple asked. They were already used to the crimson dragon's behavior. Lin Xian looked over and said, "Since you can understand him, then explain it to us." After hearing Lin Xian's words, Ruffian Dragon said angrily, "Damn it! A bunch of shrimp soldiers actually dared to threaten us and say that this place belongs to them. They want us to hand over our treasures and storage rings. Otherwise, they'll kill us without mercy." After hearing this, the crowd's faces darkened. Ruffian Dragon was also furious. "Fuck! You're the first ones who dare to rob me. I'll let you know the consequences of robbing me." The Crimson Dragon roared in anger. After hearing this, the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples were also furious. They glared at the shrimp soldiers. A bunch of shrimp soldiers actually dared to rob them? How audacious! One had to know that they weren't here to be bullied. They were here to find treasures. "Tell them to scram. Otherwise they'll be killed without mercy," Elder Song said in a deep voice. After that, the Crimson Dragon spoke a bunch of gibberish. It was obvious that it passed the message to the shrimp soldiers. After hearing this, the shrimp soldiers were instantly enraged and started to roar. After hearing this, the leader of the shrimp soldiers had a sinister look on his face. The blue demonic chi on his body started to churn. It was obvious that he was enraged by the Crimson Dragon's words. In the next moment, he raised the blue spear in his hand and stabbed it toward Lin Xian and the others. Then he started to utter strange sounds. "Fuck! They're going to attack." The Crimson Dragon stomped his feet in anger. Sure enough, the surrounding prawn soldiers quickly waved their spears, forming a blue light that connected together like a wave, surging towards the group. The shrimp soldier leader also made his move. His terrifying strength shook the surroundings, and it wasn't any weaker than the older generations. Humph! Within the crowd, Dugu Outyin coldly snorted. His tall figure took a step forward. He quickly pulled out the long sword on his back and slashed forward. This sword was extremely sharp. It sliced apart the entire seawater, creating a vacuum. Pung! Soon, their attacks collided, and a terrifying energy burst forth. The seawater was torn apart, and the buildings in the surroundings were blasted apart. forming countless powerful shockwaves that forced the students of the Immortal Martial Academy and the prawn soldiers to retreat. When they saw this scene, everyone was shocked and their hearts trembled. They never thought that the shrimp soldier leader would be so powerful to actually be able to contend against Duguoutian. It could be said that the scene before them had exceeded their expectations. However, just when these people were in a daze, the prawn soldiers in the surroundings once again rushed over, piercing towards the students of the Immortal Martial Academy. This was the underwater world, and these prawn soldiers had a huge advantage in the sea. However, the students of the Immortal Martial Academy weren't to be trifled with. They were all geniuses and elites from various places, and their combat strength wasn't something that ordinary paragons could compare to. Therefore, when the two sides collided, a huge battle erupted once again. Elder Song roared in anger, and the spiritual energy in his body erupted, forming a huge shockwave that blasted out in all directions. At the same time, he punched out, and a group of prawn soldiers exploded. At this moment, this expert from the older generation was finally enraged. Lin Xian also pulled out the Lone Star sword and quickly waved it. A sword chi surged out, slicing apart the prawn soldiers in front of him. The Crimson Dragon roared in anger. A small prawn soldier actually dared to make a move against him. He was truly courting death. He couldn't tolerate it, so he waved his dragon claws and quickly formed inscriptions in the air, forming a formation that enveloped the surroundings. After that, the prawn soldiers in the surroundings started to fantasize and even started to kill each other. Although the Crimson Dragon hadn't recovered his strength yet, the power of his formation was extremely strange and couldn't be underestimated. They are demonic beasts, and the suppression of their level is very deep. Therefore, if you want to subdue these prawn soldiers, you have to capture that prawn soldier leader first. The Crimson Dragon understood the matters of the demonic beasts very well, so he said in a clear voice. Hearing this, the sword in Duguoutian's hand became even sharper, and even wanted to suppress that prawn soldier leader. At this moment, Elder Song also roared, and with a monstrous power, he condensed a huge palm of light in the air and grabbed at the prawn soldier leader. This palm's aura was extraordinary and extremely terrifying, and it directly enveloped the prawn soldier leader. Feeling this aura, the prawn soldier leader's expression changed drastically. In the end, he couldn't care about anything else and turned around to escape. Like a ray of blue light, the prawn soldier leader instantly disappeared on the spot and fled into the distance. The huge palm of light in the sky fell, overturning the entire seabed. However, the prawn soldier leader still managed to escape in the end. When the ordinary prawn soldiers in the surroundings saw this scene, they also went crazy and turned into blue light and fled into the distance. Damn little prawns, you can escape quite quickly. If you have the ability, come and fight with me for another 300 rounds. The Crimson Dragon looked at those fleeing figures and was extremely displeased. However, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy heaved a sigh of relief, because these prawn soldiers were too ferocious and weren't any weaker than them. Fortunately, the prawn soldier leader had escaped, or else it would have been another fierce battle. However, it wasn't like they didn't have any gains, because Lin Xian had already captured 2 prawn soldiers. When the prawn soldier leader was escaping, he quickly executed the dragon capturing hands and caught the 2 prawn soldiers. After that, his gaze focused, and his soul spirit quickly entered the prawn soldier leader's mind to search his soul. Not long later, the 2 prawn soldiers foamed at the mouth and fell to the ground, twitching nonstop. On the other hand, Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. After that, he waved his hand and took out a scroll. He quickly opened it and pasted it on his forehead. His soul spirit gushed out crazily, and all the information that he had previously scouted was imprinted on it. Everyone looked over and waited patiently, because they knew that Lin Xian was an alchemist, and his soul spirit was extremely powerful. Therefore, they had a lot of information about Lin Xian. As expected, not long later, Lin Xian opened his eyes again, and the scroll in his hand floated to everyone. Everyone stretched their necks and looked over. On the scroll there was a map. Seeing the densely packed buildings and passages, Everyone gasped in surprise. This building was too vast, and if they didn't have a map, they probably wouldn't be able to walk out in a short period of time. But luckily, Lin Xian knew how to search souls and obtained a map. This would be much more convenient for them in the future. The building in the center should be the Dragon Palace in the prawn soldier's mind. I even searched their souls and found out that in their minds, the Dragon Palace had long existed. And there's something similar to an inheritance inside that can increase the strength of these prawn soldiers. It's said that in the past, there were prawn soldiers who entered the Dragon Palace and obtained great fortune. Lin Xian slowly said. This information was obtained from the two prawn soldiers' minds. Chapter 1077. On the other hand, Elder Song and the other elders frowned slightly. Lin Xian sighed. I don't know if it's the legendary Dragon Palace, but I know from the shrimp soldiers' minds that the Dragon Palace is their holy land. Also, the shrimp soldier clan isn't the only one in this sea. There are other sea demons as well. For example, the giant crab tribe, the Xian turtle tribe, and so on. Lin Xian's words made everyone frown, because they realized that the sea was more dangerous than they had imagined. Just the shrimp soldiers were enough to put them in danger. Who knew what the other sea tribes were like? Needless to say, they were definitely not weaker than the shrimp soldiers. However, it was impossible for everyone to give up. After all, the building in the middle was called the Dragon Palace. Although they did not know if it was related to the legendary Dragon Palace, it was definitely not a simple place for the shrimp soldiers to worship. Moreover, everyone guessed that the spiritual energy fluctuation they sensed was probably coming from the Dragon Palace. After a heated discussion, everyone decided to go and take a look. They came here to look for opportunities, and opportunities usually contain great danger. They knew this better than anyone else. Therefore, when they heard the news about the Dragon Palace, they did not hesitate but nodded firmly and decided to go. Lin Xian naturally had no objections. He was also very curious about the so-called Dragon Palace. Even if these people did not go, he would find an excuse to go alone. However, it seemed that he did not need to waste so much effort. It was better to follow the team. With the result, the group did not delay any longer and hurried on. Due to Elder Song and the other seniors' strong combat power, the surrounding shrimp soldiers did not come up for a while. It seemed that these shrimp soldiers were also intelligent. They knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. When they met a strong human, they did not dare to attack. Many seniors discussed quickly. They felt that the rules of the underwater world were no different from the rules on land. After quickly passing through the shrimp soldiers' area, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and hurried on. At this moment, there was a low vibration in front of them, and there was a surging spiritual energy fluctuation. There's a fight. Many disciples were shocked. The seniors frowned because they sensed that the sharp fluctuation belonged to a human's aura. Someone is ahead of us. The expressions of the elders turned ugly. Could it be someone from another sect? You want to get close to the Dragon Palace? That should be it. Let's go quickly. We can't let them succeed. The group of people was very anxious and could not help but speed up. Lin Xian also sent out his soul force, trying to sense the situation ahead. If they continued forward, they would leave the shrimp soldiers' territory and enter the giant crab tribe. The giant crab tribe was even more terrifying than the shrimp tribe. They were incomparably huge and powerful, as if they were the overlords of the sea. At this moment, the Cancer tribe was fighting with the human team. Furthermore, from the looks of it, the battle was extremely intense. The gigantic crab's pincers danced in the air as it launched a fierce attack at the humans. The human team was also very strange. Although they had human bodies, there were two illusory bird heads on both sides of their shoulders. They looked very ferocious. If someone was here, they would definitely scream, because this group of humans was from the Divine Bird Palace. However, these people from the Divine Bird Palace were obviously met with great resistance. Although they were also demons, they were not good at attacking underwater. Therefore, at this moment, facing the attacks of the Cancer tribe, they could only passively defend and were unable to cause any destructive damage to the other party. Just as the Divine Bird Palace and the Cancer tribe were engaged in an intense battle, The Immortal Martial Academy team arrived at the back. So it's the Divine Bird Palace. Elder Song and the rest looked ahead and squinted their eyes. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. Although the Divine Bird Palace was powerful, it was only a 6th grade sect. It was still slightly inferior to a king clan. On the other hand, they were a true king clan force. Therefore, if both parties were to fight for the Dragon Palace, they would have a higher chance of winning. On the other hand, Lin Xian frowned as he looked at those figures. To be honest, he did not have a good impression of the Divine Bird Palace. Previously, both parties were sworn enemies. Moreover, not long ago in Wind-Seeking City, those people from the Divine Bird Palace had also slandered him. It could be said that both parties were like fire and water. If he met them alone, Lin Xian would definitely not let them go. However, now that he was with the Immortal Martial Academy, it was not good for him to do anything out of line. However, he still snorted coldly. The Divine Bird Palace naturally saw the people from the Immortal Martial Academy. At the same time, they also saw Lin Xian. However, this was obviously not the time to bear grudges. Soon, an elder from the Divine Bird Palace shouted, "So it's the Immortal Martial Academy. You guys came at the right time. Quickly join forces with us and defeat the Cancer Tribe." They were unable to fully utilize their advantage underwater. Therefore, it was a headache to deal with the Cancer Tribe. However, they did not expect to meet the people from the Immortal Martial Academy. Of course, they would ask for help and join forces. As for seizing the Dragon Palace, they would talk about it after they defeated the Cancer Tribe and were safe. Elder Song and the other elders discussed quickly and finally decided to lend a hand. This was because they were also unable to fully utilize their combat strength underwater. Moreover, from the scene just now, the Cancer Tribe was even more difficult to deal with than the Shrimp Tribe. Therefore, they decided to join forces with the Divine Bird Palace. Speaking of which, the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace were not easy to deal with. This was because in the matter of the War God Palace, the Divine Bird Palace supported the Vice Palace Lord. On the other hand, the people from the Immortal Martial Academy were unwavering in their support of the true Palace Lord of the War God Palace. Therefore, both sides could be said to be opposing sides. However, they were now in the underwater world. In the face of such danger, they could not care about anything else. They could only join forces first. Soon, Elder Song and the rest led the disciples from the Immortal Martial Academy up the stairs. However, this time Lin Xian did not rush up. Instead, his speed was very slow. He was even at the back of the group. He would not join forces with the people from the Divine Bird Palace. Although Lin Xian was not going to deal with them, it did not mean that he would help them. Following behind the group, Lin Xian acted like a bystander. At the same time, he expanded his soul force and quickly scanned the surroundings. The dark red divine dragon also followed beside him. He did not have a good impression of the three-headed birds. Woo woo woo. The little snow monkey also jumped out. Its big gem-like eyes looked around in a daze. In the next moment, it sat on Lin Xian's shoulder and started to take out spiritual fruits to eat. Lin Xian was having a leisurely time. However, the situation at the front was not. The Cancer Tribe was extremely powerful. Therefore, both sides were going all out. Chapter 1078. This slash was extremely sharp. Moreover, the seniors were very experienced. Every slash was able to hit the vital points of the giant scorpion tribe. They would either severely injure the giant scorpion tribe or kill it directly. Instead, the confidence of the Divine Bird Palace was greatly boosted. One of the elders was dressed in purple, and even his hair was purple. He shouted coldly. The two bird heads on his shoulders became more solid. At the same time, streaks of lightning appeared on his body, making him look like a thunder god. With a wave of his hand, chains of lightning crisscrossed. The crackling sound spread throughout the sea. In an instant, the surrounding area became a sea of lightning. Countless streaks of purple lightning struck in all directions. The two major powers joined forces and attacked with all their might. Soon the giant scorpion tribe was forced to retreat. This time, the elder from the Divine Bird Palace said loudly, "Everyone, why don't we kill our way through in one go?" All right. Elder Song and the rest nodded. They had the same idea too. This was an excellent opportunity for them to join forces and unleash their full strength. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the Immortal Martial Academy to get through the giant scorpion tribe alone. Seeing that the Immortal Martial Academy had agreed, the Divine Bird Palace was excited. They quickly said, the giant scorpion tribe was extremely strong and hard to deal with. However, their speed shouldn't be too fast. We should charge with all our might and leave them far behind. We just need to leave this place quickly. Hearing this, the elders and the rest nodded. They also realized that the giant scorpion tribe was extremely strong. However, their agility was much weaker than the prawn tribe. Therefore, they quickly agreed to this suggestion. The two sides joined forces and sped up. The elders opened up a path in front, forming a powerful combat force. They forcefully opened up a bloody path through the giant scorpion tribe. Behind them, the giant scorpion tribe roared crazily. However, their huge bodies were greatly hindered by the sea. Their speed was far slower than Lin Xian and the rest. Therefore, they could only watch as they left. They couldn't catch up at all. After successfully leaving the giant scorpion tribe's territory, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Many of them patted their chests in excitement because they were one step closer to the Dragon Palace. Lin Xian followed behind the group without any expression. According to his soul force, there were other sea demons behind the giant scorpion tribe. It wouldn't be easy to get close to the Dragon Palace. However, at this moment, the dark red divine dragon was extremely excited. Brat, do you feel it? This power is very strong. Lin Xian nodded. Indeed, he felt an obscure yet powerful force coming from the front. Needless to say, it came from the Dragon Palace. At this moment, Zero spoke for the first time. What a powerful force. When Lin Xian heard this, he raised his eyebrows and asked, Zero, do you need this power? I don't need it for now, but I think it's better to give it to you. Don't worry, I will fully support you this time. Your current strength is too weak. You can't leave this world at all. You have to quickly increase your strength and reach Alchemy Ancestor as soon as possible. With Zero's assurance, Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. He knew that even if the two sides were to fight, his chances of winning were higher. One had to know that Zero could control the Thousand Beast Cauldron, which was an Earth-ranked treasure. Although it could only release a trace of its power, it was not something an ordinary warrior could contend with. Just as Lin Xian and Zero were talking, Elder Song and the Elder of the Divine Bird Palace were also communicating quickly. Finally, they decided to set off again. The Xian Turtle clan is in front. Their defense is even more terrifying than the Giant Crab clan. So try not to get entangled with them. Hearing Elder Song's words, everyone nodded quickly to show that they understood. Then, everyone moved forward carefully and entered the territory of the Xian Turtle clan. Not long after, they found a Xian turtle. This Xian turtle was as tall as a person. It carried a huge turtle shell on its back. It glowed with a faint green light and was covered with various patterns. When everyone saw this Xian turtle, their eyes lit up. The two elders and disciples in the front row quickly surrounded the Xian turtle and beat it up. However, what shocked everyone was that the Xian turtle's limbs and head shrunk and hid inside the green turtle shell. But it didn't dare to do so. It actually blocked all the attacks. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. That kind of attack could tear apart a 4th-level honorable realm in an instant, but the Xian turtle could withstand it. It was too shocking. Lin Xian was also shocked. He did not expect the Xian turtle to be so strong. It was beyond his expectations. If the Xian turtle's shell was used as armor, it would be extremely hard. In front, the Xian turtle took advantage of everyone's shock and quickly fled into the distance. The elders sighed and did not chase after it. However, a disciple of the Divine Bird Palace revealed a ferocious smile and quickly chased after it. He wanted to catch the Xian turtle and use its shell as a defensive armor. In that case, his defense would be greatly improved and even surpass a warrior of the same level. However, seeing this scene, the elder of the Divine Bird Palace's expression changed. He quickly shouted for the disciple to return. The disciple was also stunned, but the greed in his heart made him continue to chase. In front, The Xian turtle sensed this scene and was very angry. It let out a whimper. Then, it suddenly turned its head, stretched out its head, and bit the neck of the Divine Bird Palace disciple. Crack! Blood burst out and dyed the sea red. A head fell to the ground. The Xian turtle let out another whimper and swam into the distance. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked and their scalps went numb. They did not expect the Xian turtle's attack to be so terrifying. Damn it! The Xian turtles had insane defense and terrifying attack. They were simply invincible. Indeed, they were too difficult to deal with. They were even more terrifying than those giant crabs. No wonder they were so close to the Dragon Palace. They were indeed a powerful race. By now, everyone had realized that this area had a strict hierarchy. The closer the race was to the Dragon Palace, the stronger they were. However, no matter how powerful they were, it could not stop them from wanting to enter the Dragon Palace. Therefore, they reorganized the team and set off forward. Not long after, they encountered another Xian turtle, and a great battle broke out. Just like that, everyone moved forward little by little. Lin Xian stayed at the back and did not make a move, because with his powerful soul power, he sensed that a powerful Xian turtle was coming this way. Sure enough, not long after, the seawater in front of them fluctuated and formed an undercurrent that gathered in their direction. A terrifying and powerful force quickly surged over. The Xian turtle was very terrifying. Its body was not very big, only about 2 meters. However, the demonic aura on its body was monstrous. It had long surpassed a 4th layer venerable, and was even close to a 6th layer venerable. Obviously, he was a 5-star demon general at the 5th heavenly layer of the Exalt realm. Chapter 1079. Although they were 6th heaven venerables, they did not dare to be careless at this moment, because the other party's defense was too strong. Even they might not be able to break through it. This wasn't good news for them. Moreover, not only was there this huge divine turtle around, but there were also other black turtles that were quickly gathering. An elder of the Bird Craftsman Palace attacked the huge black turtle. The black turtle leader turned around and faced the crowd with its huge turtle shell. Soon the beam of light hit the turtle shell. Otherwise, it would have spat out strange syllables from its mouth. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the 2-meter-tall turtle shell once again emitted a terrifying light. The patterns on it became clear and emitted a strange power. Bang! The light palm from the elder of the Divine Bird Palace was quickly reflected back. Moreover, the power was even stronger than before. The elder of the Divine Bird Palace was sent flying by the reflected light palm and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Seeing this scene, everyone was completely stunned. What was going on? They had never seen anything like this before. In the end, a disciple screamed, "Fuck rebound. This guy can actually rebound." Hearing this, everyone's expressions turned ugly. They did not expect the black turtle leader to have such a unique skill. It could actually rebound their attacks. A few elders did not believe it and quickly tried to test it. In the end, their attacks were all reflected by the huge turtle shell. Seeing this, everyone's expressions turned gloomy and ugly, because they realized that they could not do anything to this powerful black turtle. However, they also had an advantage. Their only advantage was that they had more people. As long as they surrounded the black turtle and attacked it head-on, it would be fine. Elder Song and the elders of the Divine Bird Palace discussed and decided to attack. However, before they could do anything, a terrifying and deep voice suddenly came from the depths of the sea. Accompanying it was an aura that made one's heart tremble. One of them was a monstrous demonic aura, as if a peerless demon with horns had awakened. Moreover, what shocked everyone was that the demonic aura carried the same aura as the black turtles in front of them. Needless to say, it was a powerhouse of the Xian turtle clan. The other one was a human powerhouse because the sharp aura was very pure. However, it was extremely terrifying and seemed to be stronger than Elder Song and the others. This aura was very close to a 7th heaven venerable. Many people exclaimed when they sensed the situation in front of them. Elder Song and the others also frowned. They did not expect such a powerhouse to appear in front of them. This was an existence that was even stronger than them. Moreover, What made them even more worried was that they did not know which faction the other party was from. Lin Xian also frowned, because he did not expect such a powerful figure to appear at this time. Another thing was that he didn't expect the Xian Turtle clan to have such a terrifying expert. Fortunately, these two terrifying figures seemed to be fighting at this moment. The Black Tortoise leader, who was more than 2 meters tall, heard this voice and his expression changed drastically. He let out a long howl and quickly swam away with the surrounding black tortoises, as if he was going to provide support. And the elders of the Celestial Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace. This was because they couldn't take down these black tortoises in a short period of time. Moreover, the two auras in front of them were too terrifying, causing his heart to palpitate. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He used the blood shadow doppelganger to leave a doppelganger behind while his real body used the heaven-changing technique to blend into the sea and quickly followed. The dark red divine dragon and the snow-white monkey were also with him. Everyone was paying attention to the situation in front of them. Lin Xian was at the back of the group, so no one noticed this abnormality. The Xian Turtle leader turned and entered a building, disappearing in front of everyone's eyes. However, just as he turned around, a deep dragon roar suddenly sounded, causing his body to tremble. At the same time, a strong sense of fear rose from the bottom of his heart. It was not over yet. A white furry ball suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. In the next moment, he saw a furry paw slap his face. Then he fainted. As if he was drunk, he could not exert any strength at all. Now he could not move his body. His head was dizzy and his soul power was sluggish. However, at this moment, a black cauldron appeared in front of him. All kinds of birds and beasts flew around it quickly as if they were real. Thousand Beast Cauldron Soul Control. Accompanied by a deep and cold voice, a black light shot out from the Thousand Beast Cauldron and entered between the Xian Turtle leader's eyebrows. Feeling this inexplicable power enter his mind, the Xian Turtle leader's body trembled. He revealed a ferocious expression, as if he wanted to resist. However, he underestimated this black light. This was the Thousand Life Cauldron, the power of an Earth-tier artifact. He could not resist at all. After a moment of stalemate, he stopped in place with a dull look in his eyes. Seeing this, Lin Xian also breathed a sigh of relief. The reason he took action was because he learned about the Thousand Beasts Cauldron from his conversation with Zero. It was not just a cauldron for alchemy. It had a more magical effect. That was beast control. After Zero's explanation, Lin Xian finally understood why this black cauldron was called the Thousand Beasts Cauldron. It was because the Thousand Beasts Cauldron could control all kinds of powerful beasts in ancient times. The black light just now was cast by Lin Xian with Zero's help. It was a kind of spell to control beasts. Of course, it consumed a lot of his soul power. However, seeing the scene before him, he felt that it was all worth it. Kneel. Lin Xian looked at the Xian Turtle leader in front of him and said coldly. In the next moment, the Xian Turtle leader suddenly knelt down very respectfully. Seeing this, Lin Xian smiled. As expected of the Thousand Beasts Cauldron, it was really mysterious. Alright, get up and do what you wanted to do before. Lin Xian waved and said in a deep voice. In the next moment, the Xian Turtle leader quickly stood up. His eyes regained their clarity. He looked deeply at Lin Xian with infinite respect. Soon he swam into the distance. Lin Xian was not worried at all. This was because the Thousand Beast Cauldron was very magical. The black light just now was one of its moves called soul control. All the demonic beasts that were under this kind of soul control would listen to Lin Xian's orders. Moreover, their behavior was exactly the same as before, so no one would be able to discover them. Therefore, Lin Xian was very relieved. Looking at the disappearing figure, Lin Xian smiled with satisfaction. Then, he quickly returned to the team with the dark red divine dragon and the snow-white little monkey. After returning silently, Lin Xian recalled his blood shadow doppelganger and quickly looked around. He found that the surrounding disciples were nervously watching the situation in front of them. No one noticed his abnormality. Chapter 1080. Terrifying sounds could be heard from time to time in front of them, accompanied by terrifying shockwaves of energy. It was obvious that the two powerful beings were fighting. Suddenly, a furious roar came from the front. Then, everyone saw a mountain-like figure appear quickly. The figure was too terrifying. It was like a huge mountain, and it carried monstrous demonic chi that swept out in all directions. It's the Xian Turtle Clan's expert. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortunately, they didn't follow them. Otherwise, they would be in danger now. The Xian turtle was too terrifying. None of them could resist it. However, after the huge Xian turtle appeared, another strange sound came from the front. A void sky eye suddenly appeared in the sky, and it looked down on the world with a cold expression. The eye was very illusory, and it carried an aura that made one's heart palpitate. When the two illusory figures appeared, Elder Song and the others in the distance were immediately shocked. They even stopped in their tracks and looked ahead with a solemn expression. Some of the weaker disciples had already begun to tremble. The Xian Turtle Clan's expert was too terrifying. Its mountain-like body began to move, and it launched fierce attacks. Every attack could tear apart heaven and earth, and it carried a supreme aura as it bombarded the front. Fortunately, they were at the bottom of the sea, and the surrounding seawater could reduce the pressure. Otherwise, just this energy alone would definitely be able to destroy a city. Moreover, it would be a super city. However, the human figure was not afraid in the face of such powerful attacks. The void sky eye flickered above. At the same time, the human figure below was also releasing dazzling light. Relying on this light, everyone realized that the human figure was actually a woman. Although they couldn't see her face clearly, her exquisite figure was obvious. The woman waved her jade-like hands, and mysterious seals appeared one after another to control the void sky eye above her. Then, the void sky eye above her released a silver-white light that slashed forward like a sharp blade. Wherever the silver light passed, the seawater was split open, and a huge vacuum appeared. However, this wasn't shocking because Elder Song and the others could also split open the seawater. What caused them to be truly shocked was that when the silver ray of light struck the enormous black tortoise shell, it actually pierced through it. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. All of them widened their eyes in disbelief. After all, that was the Xian Turtle Clan. Moreover, it was an expert from the Xian Turtle Clan. The other party's defense was definitely extremely strong. Perhaps even a seventh heaven venerable might not be able to break through it. However, at that moment, his opponent had actually managed to blast open that sturdy turtle shell and injure that expert from the Xian Turtle Clan. This was simply inconceivable. Thinking of this, everyone looked at the virtual sky eye in the sky with terrified expressions. What exactly was that eyeshadow? How could it be so powerful? The Xian Turtle Clan's expert roared furiously after being pierced by the light. His voice shook the heavens as he launched a fierce counterattack. Boundless seawater gathered and surged forward like a ferocious water dragon. In an instant, the space in front of him was completely covered. The water dragon roared, bringing with it a world-destroying aura as it rushed forward. This moment was truly too terrifying. However, the human woman only coldly snorted. Her entire body blossomed with dazzling light. Then, she once again activated the void sky eye in the sky, forming a huge vortex above her. In the next instant, the seawater in the sky was sucked into the vortex and entered the illusory eye. It absorbed such a powerful attack. It actually absorbed such a powerful attack. In the distance, Elder Song and the others were also stunned when they saw this scene. Lin Xian's expression was also grave as he stared intently ahead. This was because the void sky eye in the sky gave him a very familiar feeling. However, he couldn't recall it at the moment. In front of him, the void sky eye opened and formed a devouring power that frantically devoured the endless seawater. However, although it was able to devour most of it, some of it still overflowed and blasted onto the human woman. Instantly, the human woman was forced back a few steps. Damn it! If it weren't for the fact that the void sky eye consumes so much energy, I would have killed this bastard long ago. The human woman muttered to herself. This scene had already stunned Elder Song and the others. Such a powerful attack had only forced her back a few steps. She wasn't injured at all. This was simply too inconceivable. Who was this woman? How could she be so powerful at such a young age? Could she be a disciple of a sovereign clan? But that shouldn't be the case. The martial arts she used were completely different from those sovereign clans' martial arts. Elder Song and the others discussed among themselves, their faces filled with confusion. However, Lin Xian was extremely shocked. With his outstanding soul power, he finally saw the other party's appearance clearly. However, after taking a look, he was immediately stunned. This was because he recognized this woman. It could be said that he was extremely familiar with her. This was because this human woman was none other than Zhao Shui, who had left the Xia country with him back then. However, he didn't expect her strength to increase by leaps and bounds after not seeing her for such a long time. She had reached an unbelievable level. Moreover, he also recognized the Void Sky Eye. It was a stone eyeball that Zhao Shui had obtained back then. He had also studied it before. The shape of the Void Sky Eye was exactly the same as that stone eyeball. This was why he felt that the Void Sky Eye looked familiar when he saw it earlier. At this moment, Elder Song and the others were about to step forward and provide support. "Friend, do you need help?" Elder Song asked loudly. "No need." Zhao Shui's cold gaze swept over Elder Song and the others. Then, she coldly turned her head and began to fight with the Xian turtle expert again. After that, Zhao Shui waved her jade-like hand and controlled the Void Sky Eye to shoot out a shocking ray of light that pierced through the Xian turtle expert's body. This time, the ray of light was even more terrifying than before. It directly pierced through the Xian turtle expert's body and almost pierced through his heart. The Xian turtle expert trembled with fear and didn't dare to continue fighting. His body turned into a ray of light and fled into the distance. Zhao Shui didn't chase after him because the Void Sky Eye consumed a lot of energy. "May I ask for your name? Which sect do you come from?" Elder Song quickly asked after he had finished speaking. This was because they were too shocked. They had never heard of someone with such strength at such a young age. "Zhao Shui, from the Void Sky School." Her voice was ice-cold as she quickly swept her gaze over Elder Song and the others. Although Zhao Shui was powerful, Elder Song and the others weren't weak either. Moreover, there were many of them. Their strength couldn't be ignored. "Zhao Shui." Dugu Outyin, Li Yunfei, and the others whispered, remembering this name. The eyes of the Divine Bird Palace's disciples also lit up as they stared at Zhao Shui. There was nothing they could do. She was too beautiful. However, they had never heard of the Void Sky School. Chapter 1081. Xiantian School? Hearing that name, everyone was startled. They had never heard of that name in the Tianmu continent. Could it be some ancient sect? Everyone guessed. As for Lin Xian, he frowned. His expression was gloomy. Just now, Zhao Shui's gaze had swept over him. However, there was no expression on her face. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. That shocked him. He didn't dare to believe it. It had to be known that his relationship with Zhao Shui was extremely good. There was no reason for her to not recognize him. Furthermore, that cold expression didn't seem to be an act. Damn it, did something happen to Zhao Shui? Did she lose her memory? Lin Xian guessed. He couldn't have mistaken her for someone else. Furthermore, she was also called Zhao Shui. Furthermore, he was very familiar with that eye technique. Thus, he was certain that this woman was his old friend. However, she didn't recognize him. That meant that something must have happened to her that caused her to lose her memory. No, I have to find an opportunity to ask her. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He didn't have many friends, and Zhao Shui was undoubtedly one of them. He didn't rashly go up. He decided to observe for a while longer and find an opportunity to ask her. While everyone was discussing, Zhao Shui turned around and flew inside. Everyone looked at each other. Then they clenched their teeth and followed. Not long after, they were shocked. There was a palace in front of them. That palace was extremely grand, far surpassing the surrounding buildings. There were two huge black tortoise statues on both sides of the palace. They seemed real, and they gave off an ancient aura. Zhao Shui stood in front of the palace. She frowned slightly and coldly said to the people behind her, "The things in this palace are mine. You can do whatever you want with the rest." Her voice was cold and even contained a trace of dominance. Everyone was silent. However, Their gazes were fiery as they stared ahead. However, no one dared to go up. Elder Song and the others' gazes flickered. In the end, they clenched their teeth and didn't go up. That Xiantian was too terrifying. None of them were confident that they could withstand the Void Sky Eye. Moreover, the expert of the Xian Turtle clan had been driven away by this woman. So this palace ought to belong to her. Based on the above 2 points, Elder Song and the people of Divine Bird Palace did not make a move. However, there was more than one palace here. Therefore, everyone was only envious for a moment before dispersing in all directions. Although they couldn't get the best one, they wouldn't let go of the other treasures. The Xian Turtle clan was very powerful and was very close to the Dragon Palace. There might be some treasures hidden here. Lin Xian smiled when he saw that everyone was going to search for treasures. In terms of strength, he was not the strongest here. However, in terms of control over the Xian Turtle clan, no one could compare to him. Although he was the same as the others, and had never been here before, not long ago, he controlled a black tortoise. Moreover, it was a leader-level black tortoise. Based on the black tortoise leader's understanding of this place, it was definitely in control. Therefore, Lin Xian was not worried about the treasure hunt at all. Secretly controlling the Thousand Beast Cauldron, Lin Xian contacted the black tortoise leader he controlled. Soon, through the black tortoise leader, he learned of a secret treasure location. With a flash, Lin Xian took the dark red dragon and the snow-white monkey and quickly flew into the distance. After passing through many pavilions and buildings, he saw the black tortoise leader he controlled. Under the guidance of the black tortoise leader, Lin Xian entered a 6-story pavilion. This pavilion was octagonal like a pagoda, standing there. On the first floor, there were 6 black tortoise guards. In the future, this would be an important place for the Xian Turtle clan. However, with the black tortoise leader, the 6 black tortoises were quickly sent away. Without the guards guarding the door, Lin Xian moved quickly. He turned into a sword light and instantly rushed in. There were many restrictions on the way, but there was no need for the dark red dragon to do anything. He controlled the black tortoise leader and quickly broke them all. After entering, Lin Xian's eyes lit up because he smelled an extremely rich spiritual medicine. Damn, what a rich fragrance! The dark red dragon was drooling. The snow-white monkey also cheered. Its big eyes narrowed into crescents. Its body swayed and turned into a white light, flying into the distance. Damn, leave some for me. Lin Xian did not dare to tarry when he saw the frenzied looks on the 2 of them. He quickly executed his movement skill and dashed forward. Bang! The door of a secret room was opened. This was a medicine garden. It was about 2 acres, but it was filled with all kinds of spiritual medicine. Light flowed on it, emitting an extremely rich fragrance. When Lin Xian saw it, he sucked in a breath of cold air, because these were all precious spiritual medicine. They were absolutely rare, and many of them were extinct in the outside world. I'm rich, I'm rich. Lin Xian cheered. As an alchemist, he was even more interested in spiritual medicine. With these top-grade spiritual medicine, he could refine all kinds of precious elixirs. What are you looking at? Hurry up and do it. The dark red dragon was crazy drooling. On the other side, the snow-white monkey was making a few noises. Lin Xian did not dare to delay. In order to increase his speed, he even used the thunderstorm wings. Together with the illusory demonic steps, his speed reached the extreme. However, he did not collect all of them. Instead, he collected the best ones. Every time he took action, it was an extremely precious spiritual medicine. Hey, purple thunder flower, I need it. Whirlpool flower. Golden thread grass. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Most of the spiritual medicine here were what he needed. One had to know that he had countless elixir recipes, among which there was no lack of rare ancient elixir recipes. However, although he had elixir recipes, he did not have any spiritual medicine. In other words, he could only watch. However, he was no longer a child. The spiritual medicine in front of him were all top grade, and could help him refine countless precious elixirs. Perhaps there were other treasures in the huge palace, but for Lin Xian, this was the best. In the medicine garden, Lin Xian's body flashed quickly and collected the spiritual medicine. Because there was no restriction, The fragrance of the medicine wafted out, and immediately attracted a few warriors nearby. Near the pavilion, there were a few disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. They investigated for a while, but did not find anything special. Originally, they wanted to leave. However, suddenly, a fragrance wafted over. After smelling it, the disciples suddenly widened their eyes. It smells so good. This is a spiritual medicine. Yes, and it's not an ordinary spiritual medicine. It's definitely a top-grade spiritual medicine. The disciples looked at each other and saw the passion in each other's eyes. Let's go and have a look. Haha, we're rich this time. We must be ahead of everyone. Chapter 1082. Spiritual Medicine. This is a supreme-grade spiritual medicine. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were overjoyed when they discovered the situation. Let's move quickly. We have to occupy this place as soon as possible. We can't let others find out, especially those from the Immortal Martial Academy. The few of them were excited. They chased after the aura and flew quickly. Soon, they arrived at the front of the pavilion. It's here, let's go in. The few of them did not hesitate and quickly entered the pavilion. They were very fast and soon saw the herb garden full of supreme-grade spiritual medicine. Damn, so many spiritual medicine. We're rich, we're really rich this time. These spiritual medicine could not be found in the outside world. Each of them could be sold for a sky-high price. They were extremely precious. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were very excited. Their eyes were red, and they rushed forward crazily. However, before they could get close, they were blocked by a few Black Tortoise guards. Damn, there are people from the Black Tortoise clan here. After being blocked, the few of them were furious, and their faces were very ugly. Because they had been unimpeded all the way, they thought that there was no one guarding this place. However, they did not expect to be blocked by a Black Tortoise, just as they approached the herb garden. They couldn't accept it. How could they accept it? There are 4 of us and only 3 of them. As long as we attack with all our might, we can definitely get through. A disciple of the Divine Bird Palace said quickly. The other 3 nodded, and then attacked with all their might. However, they still underestimated the Black Tortoise clan. After fighting for a while, they could not get through at all. They even wanted to use their speed advantage to leave the Black Tortoises behind, but it did not happen in the end. Because the space here was small, it was not convenient for them to use their movement techniques. Damn it! These Black Tortoises are so difficult to deal with. Damn, I'm so angry. The treasure is right in front of us, but we can't get it. Who can understand this feeling? I'm going crazy. The 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were going crazy. At this moment, one of them widened his eyes and pointed in front of him in disbelief. He looked as if he had seen a ghost, and his eyes almost popped out. That was because he had discovered a figure in the premium herb garden, who was rapidly harvesting spiritual herbs. Damn, look, there's someone. The disciple screamed. Someone? Stop joking. How can there be someone in there? We're so powerful and we can't get in. How can others go in? Unless it's a senior figure. Yes, but when we came here, we didn't find any traces of the older generation. Are you so mad that you're hallucinating? The other 3 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace didn't believe him. However, when they turned to look inside, they were all stunned. Fuck your grandpa, what's going on? Fuck, there's really someone. Motherfucker, he's not from the older generation. Seeing this scene, the 4 disciples of Sacred Bird Palace were completely stunned. They stood there motionlessly. That was because they discovered that the figure in front of them was not someone from the older generation. However, this was not the most shocking thing. What shocked them the most was that they actually discovered something else. Fuck, what did I just see? A snake, a red snake. How did it get in? Oh, my eyes are going blind. Why is there a furry thing? Who can tell me how the 3 of them got in? The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were dumbfounded, because they couldn't figure out how the other party got in. After all, the 4 of them couldn't blast away the other party's 3 black turtles, even after risking their lives. At this time, inside the herb garden, the dark red dragon also turned around and looked at the 4 figures outside the door. He quickly said, "Hey, there are 4 little reptiles coming." Lin Xian didn't even turn his head. He quickly said, "Ignore them. Hurry up and pick them. We'll leave as soon as we're done." He wasn't worried at all because with the black turtles, those people couldn't enter at all. By the time those elders came in, he had already finished plucking the fruits. Therefore, Lin Xian ignored the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace outside. The dark red dragon turned around and revealed a very disdainful smile. He then extended his dragon claw and looked down on them. Seeing this, the faces of the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace outside suddenly turned green. "Motherfucker, what is he doing? How dare he look down on me? Stinky reptile, come out. Believe it or not, I'll kill you in minutes. I can't stand it, I can't stand it. I'm going to kill them." The 4 of them were going crazy. When had they ever been looked down on? Moreover, the other party was a snake. However, they couldn't beat the 3 black turtles in front of them, so they could only vomit blood and anger. "Hey, that's not right. Why aren't the 3 of them attacked?" After messing around for a while, the 4 of them calmed down and looked inside with a suspicious look. It was because it was too strange. The 3 black turtles attacked them when they saw them, but they didn't attack the 3 people inside. It was too strange. Damn it, don't these black turtles have bad eyesight? Can't they see the situation behind them? No, let's draw the attention of the black turtles and let them attack the kid inside. We'll take advantage of the chaos to go in. The 4 of them discussed and acted again. However, no matter how hard they struggled, the 3 black turtles ignored Lin Xian and didn't respond at all. "Oh God, can someone tell me what's going on? Are these 3 black turtles blind? Damn it, there are 3 big people inside. You don't fight them but target the 4 of us. Are you crazy? Are you crazy?" The 4 of them were going crazy because there were top-grade spiritual herbs inside. Every one of them was a heaven-defying treasure. However, they were so close, but they could only watch helplessly. This was definitely a scene that would make one vomit blood. "Don't try anymore. It's useless. There might be a special restriction inside that prevents these black turtles from entering," one of them said. Hearing this, the other 3 fell silent, because this was the only explanation that could explain the situation in front of them. "Then what should we do? Are we going to give up just like that? Let that kid take advantage of us?" They didn't recognize Lin Xian because at this moment, Lin Xian is maintaining a high-speed state, leaving behind afterimages. So it's normal that they didn't recognize Lin Xian. Otherwise, if they knew it was Lin Xian, they would vomit blood even more. Give up just like that? Impossible. Let's lure more black turtles and block this door. Let's see how this kid comes out later. We can't let anyone else get what we can't get. One of the disciples revealed a sinister smile. "Go and take a look in the distance. See if you can lure other black tortoises over." Soon, the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace moved and flew inside. Not long after, they lured 3 more black turtles. 6 black turtles wandered around the herb garden, while the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace retreated to the side and waited with sneers on their faces. Chapter 1083. "Humph, how dare you steal our things? Let's see how you'll die this time." The 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace smiled sinisterly. In the premium herb garden, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon quickly picked the herbs. Before long they were done. At this moment, there were only a few scattered spiritual herbs left in the garden. Lin Xian and the other 2 didn't care for these. "Forget it, don't pick them. Leave some for the Xian turtle tribe." Lin Xian touched his storage ring and said with a smile, "Well, then be merciful and leave some for them." The dark red dragon stopped picking after hearing that. The little white monkey also swished back to Lin Xian's shoulder and nodded. If there were experts from the Xian turtle tribe here, they would definitely vomit blood. "Leave some? Fuck, leave some for us. This is all ours, okay?" Even the Xian turtle leader's mouth twitched. However, he was already under Lin Xian's control, so he couldn't resist at all. "Well, it's about time. Let's go to the next place to search for treasures." Lin Xian clapped his hands in satisfaction. With a flash of his body, he headed to the next location. Outside, the 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace hid in the dark and stared at the entrance of the herb garden. Suddenly, their expressions changed and they became excited. Damn, they're out. They're really out. Let's see how you'll die this time. The few of them sneered. In their opinion, the 6 black tortoises were too powerful. It was impossible for Lin Xian's team to resist them. Haha, I'd like to see what this kid can do. What can he do? He's dead for sure. The 6 Xian turtles are absolutely powerful. That kid can't resist. He deserves it. Who told him to steal our things? The 4 of them discussed quickly, as if they had already seen the result they wanted. However, in the next moment, their eyeballs almost fell out because they saw a figure calmly walk out of the herb garden and stride past the 6 Xian turtle guards. The 6 Xian turtle guards were like statues and didn't react at all. Damn it, what's going on? Damn it, are the 6 Xian turtles dead? Why aren't they responding at all? These people were completely stunned. It was as if 10,000 alpacas were running through their minds. This was too strange. They thought that when the other party came out, they would definitely be surrounded by the 6 Xian turtles and killed mercilessly. However, the situation was completely different from what they expected. Not only was the other party not hurt, they didn't even attack. Those Xian turtles stood there motionlessly, as if they didn't see anything. Ghost, it must be a ghost. The 4 disciples of Divine Bird Palace went crazy. However, when they saw the silhouette clearly, their hearts trembled, and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Why is it that kid's that kid? What? Him. These people went crazy again, because they didn't notice that the person who came out was none other than Lin Xian, their sworn enemy. Exxuan Zhen Xians. Damn it, I can't tolerate this. Go kill him. The elixir is ours. The 4 Divine Bird Palace's disciples' eyes were red. Like crazy rabbits, they rushed up quickly. However, as soon as they went up, the 6 Xian turtle guards in front also moved. They roared and rushed up quickly. In an instant, they stopped the 4 Divine Bird Palace's disciples. Damn it, why are you moving again? Why don't you kill him? Why? The 4 people roared wildly. They were really crazy. This scene was too much. They were all humans. Why did they let go of Lin Xian and catch them instead? However, no one answered him. Lin Xian merely sneered. As for the 6 black tortoise bodyguards, they immediately began to attack. Suddenly, there was a miserable howl from behind. Lin Xian's body swayed and set off into the depths of the pavilion. Soon, Lin Xian collected a lot of treasures. Half a day later, he left the pavilion with satisfaction. The martial arts disciples outside were even crazier. They collected the treasures crazily and almost turned the building upside down. Lin Xian did not continue to search. Instead, he wandered around. He had disappeared for half a day and had to show his face. Otherwise, it would arouse suspicion. However, as soon as he came out, he saw a few people from the Divine Bird Palace rushing towards him. It's him. He just took the Supreme Herb Garden. Yes, this guy is too despicable. He took our things. The 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace had escaped, and were now pointing at Lin Xian with a ferocious expression. They did escape, but they did not get anything at all and were injured. It could be said that they were very unlucky. Now seeing Lin Xian appear, they were even angrier. So they quickly called the other disciples of the Divine Bird Palace to come and find trouble. They even turned black into white, saying that Lin Xian took their things. Boy, how dare you take our Divine Bird Palace's things? I think you don't want to live anymore. If you know what's good for you, hand it over obediently, and we might let you go. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're from the Immortal Martial Academy. Let me tell you, our Divine Bird Palace is not to be trifled with. Hurry up and hand over those supreme herbs. These people were all ferocious as they stared at Lin Xian with fiery eyes. This was because they had already heard from the 4 disciples that Lin Xian had robbed a huge top-grade herb garden. Every single one of the herbs in that garden was extremely precious. Many of them were even extinct in the outside world. This was definitely a huge temptation and wealth. So these people would not give up. The voices of the 4 were very loud and directly alerted the surrounding people. When the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples saw this, their expressions changed drastically. What's going on? Why are they having a conflict with Lin Xian? I heard that both sides have a grudge, but they shouldn't be having a conflict at this time. Yeah, could there be some other reason? I heard that junior brother Lin took their spiritual herbs, and now both sides are arguing. An Immortal Martial Academy disciple said. Junior brother Lin took their spiritual herbs? After the crowd heard this, they were all stunned. But at this moment, Bing Ling and the rest walked over and coldly said, the items here are originally ownerless. Even if there is one, it should belong to the Xian Turtle clan. Then what basis does the Divine Bird Palace have to say that junior brother Lin took their things? They are obviously picking a fight, not putting our Immortal Martial Academy in their eyes. Yi Yan coldly said from the side. They had all gone on missions with Lin Xian before, so they were very supportive of Lin Xian. Daring to bully us, the Immortal Martial Academy's disciples, they are picking a fight. Let's go and support junior brother Lin. Let's see who dares to look down on our Immortal Martial Academy. Yeah, damn it, the Divine Bird Palace dares to bully our Immortal Martial Academy. They must be tired of living. Chapter 1084. Supporting junior brother Lin. Let's go and demand an explanation. With someone taking the lead, these people naturally wouldn't be afraid. The group of people marched forward in a grandiose manner. The number of people from the Divine Bird Palace also increased. In the end, both sides faced each other, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. At this moment, the older generation figures were also alarmed. They gave up on searching and hurried over, coldly shouting, "What are you all doing?" The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace turned their heads and hurriedly said, "Elder, you guys came at the right time. This brat is too despicable, daring to snatch our peak-grade spiritual herbs." "Elder, you guys came at the right time. This brat is too despicable, daring to snatch our peak-grade spiritual herbs. You have to seek justice for us." When the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace saw the arrival of the elder, they all shouted loudly. On the side of the Immortal Martial Academy, a wave of angry scolded, "Pooey, return your stuff. What items here belong to you? How shameless." "That's right, you guys can't snatch the spiritual herbs from us. It's because your strength isn't enough, yet you guys are still complaining. Your skin is really thick." The Immortal Martial Academy didn't back down either. Lin Xian had a cold smile on his face as he coldly stared at them. These fellows really dared to say that they wanted to snatch their spiritual herbs? Did he even need to snatch them? Those four fellows didn't even enter the door. However, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace didn't care about that. Firstly, Lin Xian was originally their enemy, and secondly, the temptation of peak-grade spiritual herbs was too great. Even these older generation figures couldn't be spared. Hence, they hurriedly rushed over, staring at Lin Xian as they coldly shouted, "Brat, I'll give you a chance. Obediently hand over the spiritual herbs you snatched, and I can let bygones be bygones. Yeah, we can give the Immortal Martial Academy some face, as long as you hand over the spiritual herbs." If it weren't for the Immortal Martial Academy, they would have already made a move. Why would they waste time talking nonsense with Lin Xian? But now, they didn't give Lin Xian any face and coldly berated him. Lin Xian coldly laughed. "After living for so many years, why are you still so stupid? Just because he said he snatched it? Which eye of yours saw it?" Don't quibble, it was obviously you who stole our things." The four Divine Bird Palace disciples shouted loudly. Lin Xian was so angry that he laughed. He quickly said, "Well, tell me, how many spirit herbs did I steal from you? What kind of spirit herbs were they? As long as you can name one, I will give you all the spiritual herbs I have today." Suddenly, the disciples of Divine Bird Palace were speechless. Because they were just talking nonsense, how could they know? However, in front of so many people, they couldn't admit it directly. They could only brace themselves and say it. "Those are all extinct spiritual medicines. How could we possibly recognize them? But we do know that just by looking at their luster and aura, they are definitely top quality. You don't recognize him? Forget it. I can't blame you for being ignorant." Lin Xian shook his head slightly. "You should be able to remember how many stalks. At your level, you should be able to tell with a glance." The disciples of Divine Bird Palace were speechless again. Of course they didn't know. One must know that they didn't even have the chance to enter the herb garden. Seeing them speechless, Lin Xian coldly said, "You can't even answer the most basic question, and still say that I stole from you? This lie is a little too big." The surrounding Immortal Martial Academy disciples were enraged when they heard these words. Fuck, I originally thought that it was a robbery, but now it seems like it wasn't a robbery at all. You guys didn't even see a strand of hair, and you're just randomly spreading rumors? What do you mean? You think that our Immortal Martial Academy is easy to bully? Fuck, you have to give us an explanation, or else don't think that you can fool us so easily. The Immortal Martial Academy disciples were anxious. Both sides had just joined hands and were allies, but now the other side directly shed all pretense of cordiality, wanting to snatch the spiritual herbs from Lin Xian's hands. This was not putting the Immortal Martial Academy in their eyes at all. Thinking of this, the group of Immortal Martial Academy disciples were enraged and glared at the people of Divine Bird Palace with unkind expressions. The countenances of the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were extremely unsightly, cold sweat trickling down their foreheads, and the expressions of the elders were also extremely dark. They didn't expect that the disciples under them would be so stupid. They didn't even understand these questions, and dared to directly slander Lin Xian. This was simply courting death. Not only that, they were also dragged into the water. Now that they were in such a passive situation, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace felt their faces turning black, as though they were slapped in the face. However, the 4 disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were unwilling to give up. Finally, they gritted their teeth and hurriedly said, "I don't know what method this brat used, but he's actually able to control the black tortoises. I personally saw him swagger past the 6 black tortoises, and those black tortoises attacked us in a frenzy. Yes, that's the reason why we missed out on the spiritual herbs." The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace yelled in a frenzy. However, the Immortal Martial Academy disciples were still laughing coldly. "Doesn't this prove that you guys are useless? Hurry up and scram, don't embarrass yourself here. Wanting to slander junior brother Lin? This is simply an impossible thing." "That's right, who is junior brother Lin? He's an influential figure in our Immortal Martial Academy. He can annihilate all of you with just a finger." These people wouldn't even believe a word of the other party. Lin Xian's expression was also indifferent. Although the other party's guess was not far from the truth, and he was indeed able to control the black tortoises, the other party didn't have any evidence, so he wasn't afraid at all. He wanted to see what other methods the other party could use. After hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace frowned. "What you said, is it true?" "It's true, elder. This is what we saw with our own eyes. There's absolutely no mistake." After hearing this, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace immediately stared at Lin Xian with a cold smile. "Brat, how are you going to explain yourself now? Could it be that you and the black tortoises have some shady dealings?" The elder of the Divine Bird Palace shouted loudly. However, Lin Xian just laughed and gave the other party a disdainful look. This group of people's brains must be made of paste. Spies of the black tortoises, only they could think of such a thing. Lin Xian couldn't even be bothered to explain such words. He could only look at them with deep disdain. At this moment, Elder Song and the others also hurried over and asked coldly, "What's going on?" "Elder Song, you came at the right time. Yeah, Elder, these 3-headed birds are too despicable. They wanted to bully junior brother Lin, and even wanted to snatch the spiritual herbs in his hands." The surrounding disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy chattered, and quickly explained the situation. After hearing this, the faces of Elder Song and the others sank. One must know that Lin Xian wasn't an ordinary disciple of the Immortal Martial Academy. He was an influential figure in the academy. Not only that, he was also a special person who was specially taken care of by the academy. Therefore, Elder Song and the others definitely wouldn't let him suffer a loss. Very quickly, his gaze turned and stared at the people of the Divine Bird Palace. He said coldly, "The few of you, aren't you going a little too far by doing this? Do you really think that the Immortal Martial Academy is easy to bully?" Chapter 1085. However, the temptation of the top-grade spirit medicine was too great. They could only brace themselves and say this. Elder Song, you misunderstood. I'm not targeting the Immortal Martial Academy. It's just that this brat is too suspicious. How about this? I won't make things difficult for him. As long as he can explain why those black tortoises didn't attack him, well, let this matter rest. If he can't explain, then don't blame us. After saying this, the elder of the Divine Bird Palace didn't say anything else. Instead, he stared coldly at Lin Xian. They wanted to see how he would explain himself. Hearing this, Elder Song and the rest's faces darkened. From the looks of it, Lin Xian didn't intend to give up. Lin Xian, on the other hand, rolled his eyes speechlessly. He stood out, looked at the people of the Divine Bird Palace, and said coldly, I thought that since you've lived for so long, you should have some experience. But I didn't expect that you can't even understand such a simple thing. There's a cultivation technique called concealment. It can conceal a cultivator's aura. Do you understand? Coincidentally, I know this cultivation technique. Is it strange? Lin Xian said with disdain. Finally, he used the heaven-changing technique to conceal his aura. Instantly, everyone was stunned because they really couldn't sense Lin Xian's aura. Do you want me to completely conceal myself and let you all broaden your horizons? Lin Xian's voice was filled with mockery. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened. However, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy laughed. That's right. You don't even understand such a simple principle. Are you still a 6th grade sect? What a joke. Sigh, I've really broadened my horizons. I originally thought that the difference between us and a 6th grade sect wasn't that big. Who would have thought that the difference between us is like heaven and earth? I've never even heard of such a cultivation technique. Since Elder Song and the rest were here, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy weren't afraid that Lin Xian would attack them. But after hearing this, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened. They were so angry that their bodies trembled. Especially the few elders, their faces turned green. Humiliation. This was an absolute humiliation. As elders, they had never been looked down upon before. But now, they were looked down upon by a group of youngsters. This wasn't just a slap to their faces, it was a kick to their faces. Moreover, they were the ones who foolishly sent Lian up. Thinking of this, they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The elders of Divine Bird Palace had an impulse to die, but Elder Song and the others also laughed. They were originally a little worried, but now it seemed that their worries were unnecessary. This was because they didn't even need to do anything. Lin Xian had already slapped the other party's face until it was swollen. Seniors, I wonder if you can understand my explanation? Lin Xian asked with a smile. Puff. Finally, an elder could not hold it in any longer and spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was angry, he was completely angry. It could be said that he was too hateful. Humph, let's go. One of the elders waved his hand and left with his people. They had no choice but to leave because they were too ashamed to stay here any longer. Seeing the people from the Divine Bird Palace leaving in a huff, the surrounding Immortal Martial Academy students cheered. Many of them gave Lin Xian a thumbs up. Junior brother Lin, you're awesome. That was too satisfying. I've long found them an eyesore. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, elders. Lin Xian was not arrogant and thanked the people around him. Although he was fine without their help, the people around him did put in a lot of effort. He was still very grateful. No problem, it's a small matter. The group of people laughed. Then, the crowd dispersed again in search for treasures. Lin Xian did not stop because according to the information he got from the Black Tortoise leader, there was a bigger treasure vault. There was no way he would miss that place. Using the illusory demon steps, Lin Xian turned into a flash of lightning and flew into the distance. However, things did not go as smoothly as he imagined because the treasure vault was discovered. In front of him, there were many people from the Immortal Martial Academy and Divine Bird Palace. They were all here? Lin Xian was incomparably shocked. It seemed that it was impossible for him to take all the treasures alone. Humph. At this moment, the people in front also saw Lin Xian. The Immortal Martial Academy did not do anything, But the people from the Divine Bird Palace snorted coldly. Just now, Lin Xian slapped their faces hard. Now that they saw Lin Xian, they were especially jealous. Lin Xian sneered, and did not care about the other party's attitude at all. Instead, he walked in with big strides. "Kid, there are enough people here. Go away." Among them, a young man from the Divine Bird Palace snorted. This young man was about 30 years old. His expression was very arrogant. He stared at Lin Xian and spoke unkindly. There was no choice. Although this was a treasure vault, there were only so many things. One more person would mean less things for them. Therefore, the people from the Divine Bird Palace did not want Lin Xian to come in. However, how could Lin Xian care about them? He must enter this place. In front, when the martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian did not stop, his face sank. He snorted coldly and quickly waved his hand. A vigorous energy gushed out. It was incomparably sharp and rushed towards Lin Xian. This palm was very sharp and did not hold back at all. If one was hit, even a fourth heaven venerable would not be able to withstand it. Seeing this scene, the faces of many Immortal Martial Academy disciples changed. They did not expect the people from the Divine Bird Palace to really attack. On the other hand, the disciples from the Divine Bird Palace sneered. They had long disliked Lin Xian. Now that they could teach him a lesson, of course, it would be great. The young man waved his palm and sneered. "This is a lesson for you." However, before he could finish his words, he was stunned. Because in front of him, a sword light flashed and split the sharp palm shadow. Lin Xian was not affected at all, and continued to walk forward. "What? How is this possible?" Seeing this scene, many disciples from the Divine Bird Palace screamed. They did not believe it, because the young man was not an ordinary person. He was a genius of the younger generation. Among the fourth heaven venerables, there were few who could match him. Originally, they thought that this palm strike could make the other party scram. But they did not expect that it would not hurt the other party at all. It did not even affect him. The disciples from the Divine Bird Palace were shocked, but the young man's face sank. Shameful, this was too shameful. Where was he supposed to put his face now? No, I must get back at him. Thinking of this, he still wanted to attack. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. His sharp gaze swept over like a sword light. Feeling this gaze, the young man's body trembled, revealing a terrified expression. That gaze was too terrifying. It made him feel fear in his heart, and his body trembled uncontrollably. The young man could not stop all of this. Originally, the spiritual energy in his body was surging, but under this gaze, it was completely extinguished. Chapter 1086. Everyone was stunned, especially the young man who had attacked before. His face was extremely dark. He did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful. He gritted his teeth and was about to attack again. However, when he saw Lin Xian's cold eyes, he suddenly felt fear in his heart. His eyes were too terrifying. They were like two sharp blades that pierced into his heart. For a moment, the young man did not dare to attack again. Lin Xian, on the other hand, snorted coldly and strode forward. This time, the people of the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to attack again. Lin Xian did not pay any attention to them. Instead, he quickly scanned the area. There were so many people here that he could not collect materials wantonly. Therefore, he could only pick one or two of the more precious items to sell. Lin Xian knew that there was a very precious tortoiseshell in the treasury from his conversation with the Black Tortoise leader. It was said that it was a tortoiseshell passed down from the ancestors of the Black Tortoise tribe. Everyone knew that the Black Tortoise tribe had a strong defense. A tortoiseshell passed down from ancient times must have been left behind by a peerless powerhouse in the tribe. Therefore, one could imagine how strong its defense was. Lin Xian wanted to integrate the tortoiseshell into his Red Lotus armor. This would definitely increase his defense greatly. Thinking of this, he was excited. He had to get his hands on this item. In the next moment, he scanned the entire treasury and searched for it. With his outstanding soul power and the information he had obtained from the Black Tortoise leader, Lin Xian quickly found the tortoiseshell. However, it was different from what he had imagined. The tortoiseshell did not look as powerful as it seemed. It even looked a little ordinary. In this dazzling collection of treasures, it was truly too inconspicuous. And it was even to the extent that it was almost forgotten. This was better. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. In the next moment, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the quaint tortoiseshell. Stop! Suddenly a cold shout was heard. This voice contained a hint of anger. Immediately after, a majestic energy burst forth and quickly blasted forward, blocking the light palm. Lin Xian frowned when he saw what happened, as it was the Divine Bird Palace that made a move. Although the people of Divine Bird Palace did not know the true origin of the tortoiseshell, they did not even take a fancy to the tortoiseshell. However, no matter what, they would not easily hand over anything in the treasury to Lin Xian. That was why the scene earlier had occurred. The one who attacked was a woman in red. Although she was pretty, she had a mean look on her face. Her chin was raised like a proud peacock. She was also a heaven's pride of the younger generation of the Divine Bird Palace. Her cultivation was even higher than that of the young man who had attacked before. She was even close to the fifth heaven of venerable. The woman looked at Lin Xian with a murderous look in her eyes. Scram! I want that tortoise shell. Lin Xian's voice was equally cold and sharp. This aggressive attitude directly angered the woman in red, and made the faces of the people of Divine Bird Palace turn black. They were a sixth-rank sect, a lofty existence. However, at this moment, a junior was completely disregarding them. How preposterous! However, with the previous example, the woman in red did not immediately attack. Instead, she said coldly, "No one can touch the things here. Let's discuss how to distribute them." Discuss? Distribute? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned and turned to look at Li Yunfei behind him. Li Yunfei's face was also ugly. He was probably arguing with the people of Divine Bird Palace just now. However, he still transmitted his voice to Lin Xian and explained the situation. Because this place was discovered by Divine Bird Palace first, and the two sects joined forces to break the prohibition, Li Yunfei wanted to share it 50-50, but the other side was unwilling. Hearing this, Lin Xian sneered. No matter who discovered it first, since they worked together to break the prohibition, it should be 50-50. But now, Divine Bird Palace was obviously insatiable. Lin Xian did not have a good impression of the people of Divine Bird Palace. And now he was even more disgusted. What's so great about discovering it first? If you have the ability, break it yourself. If you don't have the ability, how can there be such a good thing in the world? Lin Xian sneered. Junior, you're courting death. Hearing this, the people of Divine Bird Palace suddenly shouted. Chapter 1087. The people from the Divine Bird Palace finally aroused the anger of the Immortal Martial Academy disciples. A group of people stared ahead with unfriendly expressions. At this moment, Li Yunfei also said coldly, "We didn't see junior brother Lin make a move, and I believe you guys didn't see it either. I think no one can make a move in front of so many people without being noticed. At least with junior brother Lin's skills, it's impossible. So please control your attitude, or else our Immortal Martial Academy won't be easy to deal with." Hearing this, the people from the Divine Bird Palace snorted, but they didn't say anything. But their expressions were really ugly. Because this was too strange. A treasure had disappeared in front of everyone just like that. Moreover, they didn't think it was possible for Lin Xian to make a move, because he didn't have the strength to do so. One had to know that the Divine Bird Palace didn't only have the younger generation, but also the older generation. If it was really Lin Xian who made a move, they should be able to sense it. But now they didn't even notice a trace of abnormality, which meant that Lin Xian's methods were definitely above theirs. Therefore, based on cultivation strength, they ruled out Lin Xian. But in their hearts, they couldn't let go of Lin Xian. Because this was too coincidental. Lin Xian just arrived, and such a thing happened, which made them suspicious. Then what do you think is going on? The woman in red asked. Of course they won't let this matter go. Li Yunfei pondered for a moment and said slowly. To be able to make a move without being noticed, no one here can do it. Even the older generation from both sides can't do it. And those black tortoises, it's even more impossible for them to do such a thing. Other than the black tortoises and us, there aren't many people who can be suspicious. Hearing Li Yunfei's words, everyone was stunned, but the people from the Divine Bird Palace were stunned, and then they exclaimed, "You mean that mysterious woman Zhao Shui?" Zhao Shui was incomparably mysterious, and her strength was even stronger than the older generation. Not only that, she didn't belong to any power, so she was the most likely. In terms of skills, it was very likely to be her. The people from the Divine Bird Palace quickly discussed. Lin Xian was also in a daze. He couldn't figure out how this matter was related to Zhao Shui. However, what made him speechless was that other than Zhao Shui, no one else here had such strength. Shaking his head helplessly, Lin Xian could only mourn for Zhao Shui. However, he was not worried because based on her previous performance, Zhao Shui's strength was too powerful. She was not inferior to those seniors. Therefore, it didn't matter even if these people were suspicious. On the other side, the more the people of Divine Bird Palace thought about it, the more likely it was. They all gnashed their teeth, wishing they could find Zhao Shui and interrogate her. However, they were only angry and did not dare to do so. After all, the other party's strength far surpassed theirs. I thought she was an expert, but I didn't expect her to do such a thing. That's right. Not only did she occupy the largest palace, but now she's secretly attacking our treasures. She's too abominable. Hearing the other party's curses, Lin Xian was completely relieved. These people did not dare to cause trouble for Zhao Shui. In that case, he could take advantage of this opportunity. Little White, get a few more treasures. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. In his sleeve, the snow-white little monkey's big eyes narrowed into crescents. It held the small worn-out bowl and attacked again. Then, a fist-sized purple liquid disappeared. What, the purple demon shark's blood essence disappeared? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. They were going crazy. That was equivalent to the blood essence of a half-step demon king, the most precious thing in this treasury. However, at this moment it disappeared. That's too evil. This is too much. Give me back my half-step demon king's blood essence. Those from the Divine Bird Palace stomped their feet in anger. They had their eyes on that purple blood essence for a long time. They originally wanted to get it during the negotiation later, but they did not expect it to be gone now. Damn Zhao Shui, you've gone too far. Our Divine Bird Palace, and you are irreconcilable. Despicable and shameless, I'm so angry. A few seniors also roared at the sky. Those from the Immortal Martial Academy were also stunned. They did not expect this to happen. However, it was good to see those from the Divine Bird Palace being humiliated. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Who dares to talk about me behind my back? Along with the voice came a white figure. Zhao Shui. Seeing that figure, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that Zhao Shui was really here. Lin Xian was also stunned. This was too much of a coincidence. But this is good too. It's a good chance to teach those from the Divine Bird Palace a lesson. Thinking of this, Lin Xian did not attack anymore. Instead, he watched the show. At this moment, Zhao Shui stood in the void, exuding a terrifying aura. Her beautiful eyes stared at those from the Divine Bird Palace. Feeling this terrifying aura, those disciples from the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to speak. Even the people of the older generation were astonished at this moment. Go on, why did you stop? Zhao Shui said coldly. She was just passing by, but she did not expect someone to scold her. How audacious. One must know that she was the one who defeated the expert from the Xian Turtle clan. So everything here belonged to her. And now someone dared to scold her? Hearing Zhao Shui's words, those disciples from the Divine Bird Palace did not dare to speak. They had no choice. Her aura was too terrifying. It was not something they could resist. Give me a reason, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Zhao Shui said in a low voice. We don't want to, but there's something missing here. An elder from the Divine Bird Palace told her about the matter. You mean you suspect that I stole it? Zhao Shui's face darkened. In the next moment, a huge force gushed out from her body. It was like a huge mountain wave crashing down. Boom! The disciples from the Divine Bird Palace were hit and flew out, vomiting blood. Even those seniors retreated in embarrassment. You. The elder from the Divine Bird Palace was shocked and trembled with anger. She had gone too far. She had gone too far. Zhao Shui ignored him and said coldly, "Do I need to steal what I want?" "Ridiculous. I've always taken what I want. Just like this." With that, she waved her hand and took away a treasure the size of a hill. Seeing this, those from the Divine Bird Palace felt their hearts bleed. That was a genuine treasure. However, they did not dare to say anything. Her aura was enough to injure them. That kind of power was not something they could fight against. Moreover, they also understood that it was not Zhao Shui who did it. She did not need to be sneaky. She could have just taken it just like now. Chapter 1088. Looking at the scene in front of them, the faces of those from the Divine Bird Palace turned green. Many of them were heartbroken. Those were genuine treasures, and they were taken away just like that. And they could only watch helplessly. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were also excited, but they didn't dare to move. After all, the fate of the Divine Bird Palace was clear. However, there was an exception. Seeing Zhao Shui taking action, Lin Xian didn't use the little white monkey anymore. He also started to divide the treasures in the room. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes almost popped out, especially those from the Divine Bird Palace. Other than shock, they were also furious. Those were their things, and they were taken away by this despicable guy. "Lin Xian, how dare you? Brat, you're courting death. Put down the things." Countless voices rang out, all from the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. They couldn't take it anymore. If it was Zhao Shui, then forget it, because they couldn't beat her, and could only suffer. But Lin Xian didn't care. They weren't afraid of Lin Xian at all. Therefore, when the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian was also taking the treasures, they were instantly enraged. However, Lin Xian didn't care about those people at all, and quickly took action. There were good things in here. He had to take them quickly. At this moment, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy widened their eyes and exclaimed in their hearts, "This Lin Xian was too daring." At this moment, Zhao Shui also turned around, her beautiful face carrying a trace of doubt. She didn't expect that someone would dare to take action. Seeing Zhao Shui looking over, Lin Xian also stopped. He had a trace of hope in his heart, and that was that she could recognize him. However, he was disappointed because Zhao Shui still didn't recognize him. Zhao Shui's beautiful eyes turned. She didn't know why, but she felt that the figure in front of her was very familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere before. However, she just couldn't remember. "You dared to take action?" Zhao Shui asked softly. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Lin Xian smiled. "It's my honor to fight alongside a beauty. You're very special. I think I've seen you somewhere before," Zhao Shui said. Oh! Hearing this, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. Did she remember something? However, Zhao Shui continued, "It just feels familiar, but I can't remember." The two of them chatted for a while before harvesting the treasures again. When the people of the Divine Bird Palace saw that Lin Xian was not punished, they immediately became angry and wanted to attack him. Sure enough, a few bold disciples ran out, wanting to make a move. At this moment, Zhao Shui's brows furrowed as she nodded. As if struck by lightning, the disciples hurriedly ran back in fright. Lin Xian happened to see this scene, and immediately sneered. They were indeed a bunch of good-for-nothings. The people of the Immortal Martial Academy also tried to make a move, but they were also warned. Thus a very strange scene appeared. Countless disciples stared at Lin Xian and Zhao Shui as they looted the entire treasury. Although they obtained many treasures, Lin Xian was still a little disappointed that Zhao Shui did not recognize him. He was now sure that Zhao Shui must have lost her memory for some reason. But whether it was permanent or not, he still did not know. Lin Xian sighed as he gazed at the beautiful back of her figure. Zhao Shui left. Not long after, Elder Song and the rest arrived. This made the people of the Divine Bird Palace gnash their teeth in anger, because they did not have the chance to attack Lin Xian. That Zhao Shui left. It seems like she's heading towards the Dragon Palace. We don't want to do it here. Although the things here are good, they're still lacking compared to the Dragon Palace. Elder Song said. Everyone nodded because they were almost done with their loot. At the same time, they were also very excited because just the Xian turtle tribe alone had so many treasures. One could imagine how attractive the Dragon Palace was. The Dragon Palace was at the center of the entire underwater building. It was an ancient and mysterious existence. Moreover, everyone knew that the closer they were to the Dragon Palace, the stronger the sea demons were. For example, the Xian turtle tribe was much stronger than the shrimp soldiers. Fortunately, they had Zhao Shui. Otherwise, they would not have been able to enter so easily. With Elder Song's suggestion, everyone did not delay and quickly moved on. They were in such a hurry because they wanted to borrow Zhao Shui's power to enter the Dragon Palace. The people of the Divine Bird Palace also had the same plan. Therefore, no one said anything and quickly moved on. Not long after, they passed through the area of the Xian turtle tribe and arrived at a vast area. In front of them, there was a 5-colored crystal palace. It was very huge and looked like an immortal palace. Looking at the palace in front of them, everyone's breathing quickened. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes because the surging energy was even clearer here. The dark red divine dragon curled its lips, seemingly uninterested. Lin Xian was rather surprised by this. According to this dragon's character, it would definitely jump up when it saw a treasure with such surging energy. Perhaps it would have already attacked it. But now it was indifferent. Aren't you tempted? Lin Xian asked in confusion. It's not a good thing. The dark red dragon shook its head. Although the energy is very powerful, its aura is not righteous. It even has evil in it. I'm a pure Eastern divine dragon. I won't swallow such an evil source. An evil source? Lin Xian was shocked when he heard that. To be honest, he did not feel it before. Now that Ruffian Dragon mentioned it, he really did feel an evil aura in the energy. However, he could not say that it was evil because he only felt that the murderous aura was slightly heavier. Since Ruffian Dragon did not want to rob it, it could not be better. Lin Xian touched his chin and looked forward. Not only him, but everyone around him was also looking forward with burning eyes. Especially those of the older generation. Their eyes were red, and their breathing was heavy. They were too old, and it was not easy for them to improve their cultivation. However, if they could obtain this surging energy, their cultivation would definitely improve greatly. At that time, not only would their strength increase, but their lifespan would also increase. Finally, someone could not bear it anymore. A disciple of the Divine Bird Palace walked up. Everyone was watching nervously, because they knew that there must be a restriction in such an important place. That disciple also walked up cautiously. However, he was not stopped and walked in. What? Everyone was stunned when they saw that. Then they all went crazy. There's no restriction? Ha 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 ha. God is helping me. Charge. The group of people went crazy and rushed in. Lin Xian was also surprised. He took a deep breath, and his eyes were full of caution, because this was too abnormal. How could there be no restriction in such an important place? Chapter 1089. The fact that there were no restrictions in the Dragon Palace was very surprising. Perhaps it had been broken by someone, or perhaps it didn't exist in the first place. No one knew the exact situation, and no one cared. What they cared about was what was inside the Dragon Palace. Lin Xian followed the crowd and walked into the Dragon Palace. He ignored the treasures around him, because one thing attracted his attention. Not only him, but everyone's attention was drawn to it. In the middle of the Dragon Palace, there was a dragon pillar with 2 dragons engraved on it that were coiling around each other. Between the 2 dragon heads, there was a blue crystal ball that was flowing with brilliance. It was obvious that it contained powerful energy. The dragon pearl. Someone shouted. Immediately, everyone's gaze was focused on it. This energy. Countless people were excited, including the older generation figures. However, in the next moment, everyone's expression changed and revealed a look of shock. That was because there was a white figure in front of them. Zhao Shui, a disciple exclaimed. It was indeed Zhao Shui. Moreover, not only was there Zhao Shui, there were also other figures. Those were all sea monsters. Many of them were injured, and a few of them were lying on the ground. They had obviously been killed. It seemed that before they arrived, Zhao Shui had a huge battle with those people. However, it didn't seem to be going well, because the Dragon Pearl was still under the protection of those sea monsters. Lin Xian's expression was also solemn, because he knew that in order to obtain the Dragon Pearl, he had to defeat those sea monsters. He frowned slightly and looked ahead. In front of him, there were 3 powerful mermaids with human bodies and shark heads. They looked ferocious, and there was a shark tail on their backs. The 3 of them were abnormally powerful, and far surpassed the other sea monsters. In addition to the 3 of them, there was an even more dangerous pure-blooded mermaid. That person was even more demonic. His entire body was shrouded in an inky aura, and his hair was fluffy like the tentacles of an octopus that kept twisting. In addition to his strange appearance, his aura was also the most powerful. He had reached the 5th heaven of the supremacy realm. Seeing this scene, many people were inwardly shocked, and even more people wanted to continue onward. Everyone stepped back. Zhao Shui didn't turn around, but she reminded him coldly. However, no one cared. From their point of view, Zhao Shui simply didn't want them to participate. In front of such a precious dragon ball, how could these people listen? Thus, in an instant, many disciples rushed forward. However, in the next instant, those people started to panic. This was because all the martial artists who approached the dragon ball were pulled by a suction force and uncontrollably walked forward. Moreover, the closer they got to the dragon ball, the less flesh they had. In the end, they were reduced to a pile of bones. No! The elders of the Divine Bird Palace roared madly, because among them were their proud disciples. Elder Song and the rest of the elders were also shocked. They kept shouting. No one was allowed to go over. In fact, even without Elder Song's reprimand, everyone retreated. No one dared to step forward. The scene just now was too strange. Those disciples who had turned into skeletons did not scream in pain. They even had smiles on their faces, as if they were on a pilgrimage. What's the situation? This thing is too strange. Yeah, it's as if there's some kind of magical power that can attract people. Damn it, I don't want to go up anymore. This thing doesn't look good. Many disciples shook their heads madly. Hey, someone went up. Fuck, who's so fierce? Does he want to die? Seeing someone not retreating, these people were stunned and screamed. Lin Xian, it's junior brother Lin. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy exclaimed. Junior brother Lin, come back quickly. Bing Ling and the rest shouted, trying to call Lin Xian back. Not good. Could it be that he's under the influence of evil? What should we do? That Dragon Ball is too strange. The disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were anxious. Elder Song and the rest also had a gloomy expression. On the other side, the people of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. Originally, they had lost many disciples, and their mood was heavy. But now, seeing this scene, they were all excited. Haha, it's that brat. He's also under the influence of evil? That's great. He's really overestimating himself. Even the elders don't dare to go up. A junior actually dares to go near. He's really courting death. The evils we bring on ourselves are the hardest to bear. The group of disciples of the Divine Bird Palace sneered. But soon, they couldn't laugh anymore because they found that Lin Xian was fine. His body wasn't injured, and his face didn't show any infatuation. He even stopped halfway. What's going on? Could it be that the brat is fine? How is this possible? The group of disciples of the Divine Bird Palace looked as if they had seen a ghost. Haha, I knew it. With junior brother Lin's ability, he'll definitely be fine. Yeah, since junior brother Lin dares to go up, it means that he's confident. Ridiculous, some people are still mocking him. He's really slapping himself in the face. Dare to doubt junior brother Lin? Is there something wrong with his head? The people of the Immortal Martial Academy retorted, looking at the Divine Bird Palace with disdain. These people were too despicable. This was a slap in the face. Hearing these mocking words, the faces of the people of the Divine Bird Palace darkened, their expressions cold. Zhao Shui was also very surprised. She didn't expect that there would be someone who could walk up. So, she looked at Lin Xian a few more times. Lin Xian shrugged and said slowly, from the situation just now, those people should be affected by the soul power. So as long as they're careful, don't get confused, and stand outside the safety line, there shouldn't be a problem. Lin Xian wouldn't joke around with his life. The reason why he walked up was because he understood everything. Since Zhao Shui was fine, it meant that the Dragon Ball wasn't as scary as imagined. Or it could be said that there was a condition for it to be scary. After analyzing, Lin Xian found this condition. That was why he was able to stand safely now. When the people behind heard this, they also showed a look of realization. A small number of people showed a happy expression, but most of them still had a bitter expression. Doubtful they didn't have such strong soul power. Elder Song and a few of the older generation people breathed a sigh of relief and carefully approached. Dugu Aoshan's whole body was filled with sword intent and was incomparably sharp. Naturally, he wasn't afraid of any soul power interference. Li Yunfei also raised his hand and threw out a tattered picture scroll, holding it above his head, and slowly approached. This picture scroll was yellowed. Although it was incomplete, its aura was terrifying. At this moment, rays of light hung down, enveloping Li Yunfei. On the other side, the elders of the Divine Bird Palace also used various methods to get closer to the Dragon Ball. Lin Xian didn't care about those people behind him. The reason why he said it was because he knew that it was easy to get close, but it was very difficult to seize the Dragon Ball. He had to borrow the strength of everyone. Zhao Shui also didn't care. At this moment, she was staring at the Dragon Ball, carefully studying it. Because she felt an inexplicable sense of danger, so she didn't act rashly. Chapter 1090. What do you think? Zhao Shui asked. Lin Xian was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Zhao Shui to ask him. After pondering for a moment, he slowly said, logically speaking, such an important place should be protected by layers of formations. But there's nothing here. Don't you think it's strange? Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded lightly. Lin Xian continued, there must be something wrong when things are out of the ordinary. So I think this Dragon Ball must be very evil. Or rather, there are dangers here that we don't know about. Your analysis is about the same as mine. Zhao Shui said softly. Then she moved her jade-like feet and walked forward. It seemed like she wanted to deal with the sea demons in front of her. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he also wanted to get this Dragon Ball, because the energy contained in it was too strong. If he could get it, his cultivation base would definitely increase again. So, seeing Zhao Shui walking forward, Lin Xian also took a deep breath and moved forward again. Seeing this, the disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy were shocked. They had just taken a few steps and were almost affected by the Dragon Ball and lost their minds. Lin Xian was even closer than them, but he was fine and still wanted to move forward. The gap between them was too big. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were even more gloomy. They glared at Lin Xian fiercely and wanted to eat him alive. Damn it, this kid is too strange. He can actually get so close. Is he not afraid of the Dragon Ball's influence? How is that possible? This kid is too arrogant. Just watch, he'll be in trouble soon. Yes, maybe he'll lose his mind soon and become a pile of bones. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace said fiercely. However, to their disappointment, Lin Xian was not affected at all. In fact, he even reached the front of the two dragon pillars in the end. Looking at the lifelike dragon pillars, Lin Xian was amazed. However, he didn't act rashly, because the Dragon Ball was affecting him too much at this moment. If he made the slightest mistake, he would be affected. It could be said that although Lin Xian appeared to be safe, he was actually in grave danger. However, when Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, all the effects disappeared. The Great Dragon Sword Spirit was an offensive saint art that could destroy everything. Therefore, even if the Dragon Orb was very strange, it could not fight against the Great Dragon Sword Spirit. In fact, the moment Lin Xian activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, the Dragon Pearl trembled slightly before releasing an even more demonic light. Lin Xian noticed this. Could it be that the Dragon Pearl is afraid of the Great Dragon Sword Spirit? Thinking of this, he was overjoyed. If that was really the case, then that would be great. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian extended his hand and slowly reached for the two dragon pillars. The next moment he touched the dragon pillar. On the 2 dragon pillars, 2 real dragons were engraved, circling each other. At this moment, Lin Xian's hand gently brushed it, causing an energy fluctuation. Lin Xian was overjoyed because he felt that the 2 dragon pillars also contained powerful energy. Although it was not as powerful as the dragon orb, it was still very amazing. More importantly, Lin Xian could now come into contact with it. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely envious, while the people of the Divine Bird Palace gritted their teeth. Damn it, why is he still okay? Impossible, this is an illusion, this must be an illusion. Damn, how is it possible, he really touched the dragon pillar. The people of the Divine Bird Palace felt like they were going crazy, and even the elders' faces were gloomy. However, at this moment, an angry voice came from behind, like the roar of a savage beast. Stupid humans! How dare you disturb the Dragon King's rest? You will all die. This voice was filled with endless anger. When everyone heard this, they were shocked and turned around. Then, they saw a sea demon rushing over quickly. He was still injured, as if he had just experienced a great battle. Prime Minister Hai, this group of humans wants to snatch the dragon orb. A few surviving sea demons screamed. Prime Minister Hai rushed over quickly, and when he saw the sea demon corpses all over the ground, he was so angry that he trembled. Damn humans! How dare you kill my sea tribes people? The Dragon King will not let you off. Everyone's face changed because Prime Minister Hai's aura was too powerful, almost at the 7th heavenly layer of Venerable Realm. For such a character, except for Zhao Shui, no one among them could stop him. However, what shocked them even more was that this powerful Prime Minister Hai seemed to be injured, and the injuries were fresh. Who is it that could injure Prime Minister Hai? Just as everyone was puzzled, another earth-shaking shout came from behind them, accompanied by a terrifying aura that overflowed into the sky. In the next moment, countless figures rushed over from afar, bringing with them a powerful torrent, and their momentum was terrifying. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, and even Lin Xian frowned, because there were too many people, and it was almost the same as the team of the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace. Such a team was in existence that couldn't be ignored, not to mention that they were here for the dragon orb. Moreover, there was a powerful aura of the 7th heavenly layer of Venerable Realm. Even Elder Song and the rest had a gloomy expression on their faces. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man in a silver robe, holding a folding fan in his hand. When he waved it, it brought about surging waves. Courting death. Prime Minister Hai was furious when he saw those people chasing him. In a flash, he arrived near the dragon orb and quickly waved the staff in his hand. Lord Dragon King, please bestow me power. Following his incantation, the dragon orb above suddenly released a dazzling light, and a dragon-shaped spiritual energy flew out from the dragon orb and entered Prime Minister Hai's body. Immediately, Prime Minister Hai's face lit up, and a low sound came from his body like thunder. A layer of light gushed out and enveloped him. Insignificant tricks, no matter what you use, it's futile. Stay here. The voice of the middle-aged man holding the fan was cold, like that of an emperor. In the next moment, he waved the folding fan in his hand, and a huge curved wind blade was released. The seawater was ruthlessly cut open, and the entire underwater world seemed to be cut in half. That middle-aged man was a 7th heavenly layer venerable, and his attack was naturally terrifying. The azure wind blade's arc was like a heavenly blade, ruthlessly standing on Prime Minister Hai's body. Bang! A violent trembling sound rang out, spreading in all directions. Light bloomed on Prime Minister Hai's body, forming the strongest armor to protect his body. This energy came from the dragon orb above, mysterious and unfathomable. Although there was only one, it was still terrifying. The aura contained in it wasn't something that venerables could understand. Therefore, this huge wind blade didn't cause any damage to the light. What? Chapter 1091. When the huge wind blade struck Prime Minister Hai's body, it emitted a sonorous rumble. However, to everyone's surprise, the terrifying attack only emitted a deafening sound, and did not cause any substantial damage to Prime Minister Hai. What? How is this possible? The middle-aged man with the folding fan was extremely shocked. His face was filled with horror. This was completely beyond his expectations, because not long ago, Prime Minister Hai had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood, and had fled with serious injuries. However, in just a short moment, his opponent had become so powerful that he could ignore his attack. This was too strange. The cultivators that followed the middle-aged man were also shocked. They were all dumbfounded. However, at this moment Prime Minister Hai moved. He waved the staff in his hand, forming a huge blue light that surged forward like a wave. In an instant, the middle-aged man was beaten back. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene, because the middle-aged man was a 7th Heavenly Layer Exalt Realm expert. However, he was actually unable to defeat a sea demon. This was simply too shocking. Lin Xian also frowned. He did not stay, and quickly left the dragon pillar. He realized that the reason why Prime Minister Hai was so powerful was because he had used the energy within the dragon pearl. He retreated to a safe place and silently observed the situation ahead. In front, the middle-aged man stabilized his body with a shocked expression. However, in the next moment, a powerful aura erupted from his body, and he attacked again. Prime Minister Hai sneered and quickly waved his staff. Immediately, the two attacks collided again. The 7th Heavenly Layer Venerable was beaten back again with a pale face. Seeing this scene, everyone was silent. Lin Xian's frown deepened. He realized that Prime Minister Hai's attack did not have any profound technique, but the energy it contained was extremely terrifying. It was completely using energy to crush the sea demon. However, the suppression of power was the most difficult to resist. Unless the other party had a supreme technique, like the great dragon sword spirit like him, only then would they be able to fight above their level. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to defeat this sea demon. Dragon King Tsunami. After repelling the middle-aged man with one move, Prime Minister Hai shouted again. This time, he raised the staff in his hand high and connected it to the dragon pearl above. A blue energy wave radiated from the staff and spread to the surroundings. In an instant, it enveloped the entire dragon palace. In the next moment, all the martial artists present were horrified. This was because they discovered that the spiritual energy in their bodies was disappearing at a rapid rate. This phenomenon was too terrifying. Because the martial artists had lost their spiritual power, it was difficult for them to display any strength. And now the situation was so dangerous. Without spiritual power, they could not fight against the sea demons. Lin Xian also felt the loss of spirit energy in his body. At the same time, he quickly used his soul force to carefully investigate. He found that the lost spirit energy was all flowing into the dragon ball in front of him. As for the dragon ball, it shone even brighter. With a cold snort, Lin Xian operated the great dragon sword soul in his body and quickly cut off this connection. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body returned to normal and no longer flowed out. However, the others were not so lucky. They could not escape the deprivation of the dragon balls. However, they would not sit still and wait for death. The middle-aged man at the 7th level venerable hurriedly shouted, "Are you guys from the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace? We are from the Merry Woods. Now that the situation is very dangerous, I think we should join forces." All right. Sure. Elder Song did not hesitate and immediately agreed. The Divine Bird Palace also quickly responded. There was no other way. In the current situation, they could not escape by themselves. Only by joining forces would they have a chance. After getting the response from the Immortal Martial Academy and the Divine Bird Palace, the 7th level Venerable's confidence increased greatly. He led the disciples of the Merry Woods and quickly counterattacked. Elder Song and the elders of the Divine Bird Palace also erupted with energy in their bodies and attacked with all their might. The Immortal Martial Academy, the Divine Bird Palace, and the Merry Woods were all super forces. Their disciples were all geniuses. Coupled with a group of powerful elders and a 7th Heavenly Layer Venerable expert, their combined strength was incomparably terrifying. When everyone attacked, terrifying energy exploded, causing the entire Dragon Palace to shake violently. Even if Prime Minister Hai used the energy in the Dragon Ball, he still felt very strained in the face of such a terrifying counterattack. Not only that, the 7th-level Venerable Expert even joined forces with the older generation and attacked crazily, quickly surrounding and killing Prime Minister Hai. We must kill him. Otherwise, none of us will be able to survive today. The 7th-level Venerable roared. His voice shook the sky and spread in all directions. It was related to their lives, so those disciples did not hold back. They attacked crazily and attacked with all their might. Prime Minister Hai's cultivation was only at the 7th-level Venerable realm. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to contend against such a big scene. It was only by relying on the energy in the Dragon Ball that he could contend against them. However, with his cultivation, he could only roughly mobilize the energy. He could not unleash the full power of the energy. This gave everyone a chance. As everyone attacked crazily, Prime Minister Hai became more and more exhausted. He kept retreating, and his face became pale. In the end, he retreated to the side of the 2 dragon pillars. With his back against the pillars, he resisted with difficulty. Although he was suppressed by everyone, with the support of the energy in the Dragon Ball, he would not be defeated for a while. Therefore, the situation was in a deadlock. However, the more they fought, the more anxious they became. Because they were different from Prime Minister Hai. Prime Minister Hai had the support of the Dragon Ball and could be said to have unlimited energy. However, they were different. They were deprived by the Dragon Ball, and the spiritual energy in their bodies was constantly disappearing. The longer they delayed, the weaker they became. As for the Dragon Ball, it would absorb their spiritual energy and become stronger and stronger. Therefore, this was a hopeless situation for them. Destroy the dragon pillars. We can't be lenient. The 7th-level Venerable roared. Immediately, everyone's attacks changed. They attacked the dragon pillar behind Prime Minister Hai, although they did not know what the dragon pillar was used for. Since it was connected to the Dragon Ball, it had to be destroyed. Rumble. Everyone's attacks were powerful, causing the sturdy dragon pillar to shake non-stop. Cracks appeared on the last dragon pillar. Seeing this, Prime Minister Hai's expression changed. Then he shouted, "Black Turtle General, come out!" Immediately, a black hole appeared on the other dragon pillar. Then, a huge black shadow appeared and quickly grew bigger. Boom! Finally, the black shadow landed on the ground, causing the entire dragon palace to shake again. In front of everyone, a mountain-sized sea demon appeared. Accompanying it was a wave of demonic chi. Chapter 1092. This sea demon's body was as huge as a mountain, and a terrifying demonic aura spread out in all directions. It roared, and like a clap of thunder, it shook the heavens and earth. Everyone looked up in horror, and found that it was a black tortoise. It was the one that had escaped after being injured by Zhao Shui. However, at this moment, the injuries on its body had already healed, and it seemed to be even stronger than before. This was really too shocking. It should be known that those injuries could not be healed in a short period of time. However, this sea demon was standing in front of everyone, as good as new. Could it be because of the dragon pillar? Lin Xian frowned, because he knew that this huge black tortoise came out of the dragon pillar. There must be some kind of relationship between the two. Under the command of Prime Minister Hai, the huge black tortoise clan expert roared and launched a fierce attack on everyone. However, Zhao Shui snorted coldly, and like a stream of light, she quickly rushed up. "Bastard, you're courting death." She raised her lily-white hand and sent out a series of palm shadows, blasting towards the black tortoise clan expert. However, the situation this time was beyond her expectations. The black tortoise clan expert was nourished by the energy of the dragon pearl and became extremely tyrannical. However, Zhao Shui was affected by the dragon pearl, and the spiritual power in her body was drained. Therefore, when the two fought, Zhao Shui was at a disadvantage. With the participation of the black tortoise clan expert, Prime Minister Hai, who was originally at a disadvantage, recovered and launched a fierce attack. "No, our physical strength can't hold on for long. Let's retreat first." Elder Song's face changed greatly, because he found that there was not much spiritual power left in his body. If this continued, the unlucky ones would be them. The elders of the Divine Bird Palace also quickly nodded, because their situation was also not good. Therefore, under the leadership of the elders, the disciples retreated and temporarily left the Dragon Palace. As soon as they left the Dragon Palace, the experts of the three major sects cast a defensive light curtain, then sat cross-legged on the ground, and quickly recovered their spiritual power. There was no other way. They had consumed too much spiritual power, and had to recuperate. Lin Xian also sat down cross-legged, and quickly circulated the secret art of longevity, to recover his spiritual energy. At the same time, he kept thinking about how to break this stalemate. In Dragon Palace, the strong cultivator of the Xian Turtle clan entered the Dragon Pillar again. Prime Minister Hai's face was gloomy. He quickly used the energy of the Dragon Pearl to restore one of the Dragon Pillars. Although the humans were temporarily repelled this time, he didn't dare to be careless at all, because just a moment ago, those despicable humans had almost shattered one of the Dragon Pillars. If the Dragon Pillar were to shatter, then it would be troublesome. Therefore, he did not dare to be the slightest bit careless, and quickly used the energy inside the Dragon Ball to repair it. Outside the Dragon Palace, everyone was recovering quickly. Zhao Shui was dressed in white, and looked like a fairy. She said coldly, "When we attack again, I will do my best to stall that black tortoise. As for the rest, it's all up to you. You must break that Dragon Pillar. Don't worry, we'll do our best as well." The 7th-level venerated realm expert from Merrywoods said in a deep voice. Elder Song and the other elders quickly nodded. They decided that this time, they must do their best to break the Dragon Pillar. This time, everyone had suffered heavy losses. Therefore they rested for 3 days. During these 3 days, everyone was recovering here. However, Lin Xian was an exception. Because he had already cut off the power of the Dragon Ball, he didn't consume much spiritual power. Therefore, he took the opportunity to take out the 1,000 Beast Cauldron and some supreme-grade spiritual herbs, and began to refine pills. The dark red divine dragon arranged a layer of array around Lin Xian. Then, it lay on the ground and took out some supreme-grade spiritual herbs, and began to consume them together. This scene immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Many people drooled when they saw the supreme-grade spirit herb, especially those from Divine Bird Palace. Their faces were gloomy, and they were going crazy. Damn it, these spiritual herbs were originally ours. It's all because of this despicable brat. I can't stand it. He actually refined pills in front of all of us. Despicable. Humph, he definitely won't succeed. Damn, that snake actually swallowed it directly. What a waste. I really want to catch him and eat snake soup. A group of Divine Bird Palace disciples gritted their teeth in anger. However, Lin Xian did not pay any attention to them. He quickly entered a state of mind, and began to concoct pills. Gradually, the older generation figures were jolted awake. Even the 7th-level venerated realm expert revealed an expression of shock. This was because they realized that Lin Xian was actually refining a 7th-grade pill. He can refine 7th-level pills at such a young age. He's really amazing. Many people were shocked. Soon he refined a furnace of pills. These pills were refined according to the pill formula left by King Pillfeather. They were all pills that could improve one's cultivation strength. At this moment, they were the most suitable for Lin Xian. Putting away the 1,000 Beast Cauldron, Lin Xian picked up a pill and quickly swallowed it. Then, he ran the longevity secret art and absorbed it with all his strength. In this way, everyone recovered their strength while Lin Xian cultivated. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, Lin Xian's cultivation had improved a lot, and had reached the peak of the 4th-level venerable. It seemed shocking, but in fact it was easy to understand. The spiritual herbs in Lin Xian's hands were extremely precious. They were all extinct spiritual herbs and were very old. They could be said to be rare treasures. Not to mention refining them into pills. Just consuming them directly could improve a martial artist's cultivation by a large margin. Moreover, Lin Xian had the pill formula left by the king, and the 1,000 Beast Cauldron. It could be said that the effects of the pills he refined were amazing. That was why he could improve his cultivation by a large margin in 3 days. Of course, this kind of situation was very rare. If Lin Xian hadn't picked the supreme-grade spiritual herbs, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a feat after eating a few more furnaces of pills. I think I can reach the 5th level venerable, Lin Xian thought in his heart. Of course, it would be even better if he could get the Dragon Ball. It could improve the effect quickly, and even break through to the 6th level venerable was not a dream. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes were burning with a trace of passion. At this time, most of the people had recovered. The 7th level venerable from Marywood stood up and clenched the folding fan in his hand. The light in his eyes was terrifying. Zhao Shui also stood up, a deep light flashing in her beautiful eyes. At the same time, Elder Song and the other older generation figures were also ready. They were full of fighting spirit. This time, they must take down the Dragon Palace. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Countless figures set off and charged into the Dragon Palace. Dragon King Tsunami. Prime Minister Hai roared and waved his staff. A terrifying energy enveloped the Dragon Palace. A strange and frightening power enveloped everyone. However, with the experience of the previous battle, everyone had a plan to deal with it. In the next moment, they all took action to resist the energy. Muffled sounds like thunder rang out. This was the sound of energy colliding. Endless waves surged, and the entire Dragon Palace trembled. Chapter 1093. Everyone worked together and attacked again. The fan in Marywood's 7th level venerate's hand quickly enlarged and fell. It was like a phoenix flapping its wings, creating a strong gale that swept downwards. This attack was very terrifying. It was as if it was not a human, but an ancient demonic bird. In the next moment, the entire Dragon Palace was filled with violent heavenly winds. The terrifying heavenly winds enveloped the entire Dragon Palace. Countless people panicked and activated their defenses to resist. Fortunately, this attack was not directed at them, so they only suffered from the aftershocks. There was no danger to their lives. This was not an ordinary attack. This was an Earth-class martial art Heavenly Wind Rend. A powerful wind-type martial art, coupled with the 7th level Venerate's half-Earth-class artifact, made this attack very powerful. It was enough to devour the heavens and split the earth. Fortunately, the Dragon Palace was very special and powerful. Otherwise, if it were any other city, it would have been torn apart. However, even so, the Crystal Dragon Palace was not spared. Especially when everyone's target was the 2 dragon pillars. One of them was enveloped by the heavenly winds, and cracks appeared on it again. This time, the cracks were even bigger than the previous one. It was as if the dragon pillar would crack at any moment. After using this attack, Marywood's 7th level Venerate heaved a sigh of relief. Although this attack consumed a lot of his energy, the effect was very obvious. Was this the strength of a 7th level Venerate? How terrifying. This attack was comparable to everyone's combined energy. Many people were shocked because the last time the Dragon Pearl cracked, it was caused by everyone working together. This time, the 7th level Venerate created the same effect by himself. It was even better. This result indeed shocked everyone to the core. Good job, Martial Uncle Zhou. Mighty Heavenly Wind Rend. Marywood's disciples cheered. They were very happy. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened, and they fell into shock again. This was because Zhao Shui also made a move. Above, there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy, and a huge eye appeared. It was like the eye of the heavens. Void Sky Eye. At this moment, Zhao Shui was emitting a terrifying aura. She was like a god that could see through everything. Everyone felt his gaze, and their hearts began to pound wildly. It was as if all their secrets had been exposed under the sun, and there was nowhere to hide. At the same time, the Void Sky Eye also unleashed an attack. It was as if that gaze could see through the mountains, rivers, and starry sky. Those eyes were too terrifying, as if they were looking down on all life. Suddenly, the Dragon Palace trembled violently, as if it was about to be destroyed under this gaze. Rumble! Under the attack of the Void Heaven Eye, the dragon pillar that had cracks on it completely shattered. Bang! The dragon pillar shattered, collapsing in all directions. What kind of eye technique is this? It's so terrifying. Prime Minister Hai was extremely shocked. He didn't expect a human to have such a terrifying eye technique attack. It was completely out of his imagination. The other half of the crowd was also shocked. Void Sky Eye, the legendary eye technique that disappeared. Mary Wood's 7th layer supreme expert couldn't help but cry out in shock. Because the power of this ocular technique already surpassed his Earth-rank martial art, Heavenly Wind Rend. Moreover, it was not just a little bit stronger. Not only that, but what was even more shocking was that this was a long-lost eye technique. In the crowd, Lin Xian was also shocked when he saw this scene. This ocular technique was too powerful, and its attack power shocked him. One had to know that even when he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul with all his strength, it was only SOSO. Of course, this didn't mean that the Great Dragon Sword Soul was weak, but Lin Xian was only a 4th layer supreme expert. If Lin Xian was also a 7th layer supreme expert, then with the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul, it wouldn't be a problem to split the Dragon Palace apart. Ah, you dare to destroy the Dragon Pillar? You're all going to die. Prime Minister Hai went crazy. He waved his staff and quickly mobilized the energy of the Dragon Pillar, trying to restore it. However, the crowd didn't give him a chance and quickly attacked. Black Tortoise General, come out! Prime Minister Hai couldn't hold on by himself and hurriedly called for his companions. Buzz! A huge whirlpool appeared on another dragon pillar, and then a huge figure appeared. It was an expert from the Black Tortoise race. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a monstrous demonic aura that swept out in all directions. Its aura was much stronger than before. It seemed that the dragon pillar was indeed very strange. The Black Tortoise race expert had only been in there for a few days, but his strength had increased rapidly. The current him was far stronger than before. Everyone be careful. Don't fight it head-on. Elder Song quickly reminded them from behind. Although his disciples were geniuses, they were too young. With their current strength, they couldn't resist at all. They had to work together to fight it. This time, everyone split up. One team, led by Zhao Shui, fought against the Black Tortoise race expert. The other team, led by Mary Forest's 7th layer supreme expert, Elder Zhou, attacked the other dragon pillar. They attacked from both sides at the same time. Void Sky Eye. Zhao Shui's figure fluttered like an immortal. She instantly arrived above the Black Tortoise race expert. The huge illusory eye surged and released a resplendent attack. This was an ocular technique that contained a terrifying soul power. Bang! In an instant, this attack bombarded the Black Tortoise race expert's body and immediately tore open his hard turtle shell. Although the Black Tortoise race expert's strength had increased greatly, the Void Sky Eye was too terrifying and couldn't be judged by common sense. Therefore, this attack injured the Black Tortoise race expert. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded in all directions as the Black Tortoise race expert went berserk. As a sea race expert, he was very powerful. This time, he had been strengthened by the Dragon Pillar, and his strength had increased greatly. He originally thought that this time, he could avenge his humiliation and kill the despicable human in front of him. However, he didn't expect that he would be injured again. How could he not go crazy? He waved his huge claws and pounced forward. Sika! The entire space collapsed as endless waves surged. The space in front of him was instantly emptied. Zhao Shui used her movement technique and quickly dodged this attack. At this moment, the 7th layer supreme expert in the distance also seized the opportunity to use an earth-grade technique. He ruthlessly bombarded the Black Tortoise race expert and sent him flying. The mountain-like body flew out from the bottom of the sea, destroying countless buildings along the way. Kill! Elder Song led the countless disciples and quickly attacked. They could only use this opportunity to attack the Black Tortoise race expert. Rumble! In an instant, countless attacks landed and enveloped the Black Tortoise race expert. Even though the Black Tortoise race's defense was strong, it couldn't withstand so many attacks, and the attacks of two 7th layer supreme experts. Therefore, it didn't take long for it to become thin and heavily injured. Seeing this scene in the distance, Prime Minister Hai's face was extremely gloomy. You didn't expect that even the extremely tough black tortoise race expert couldn't stop these despicable humans. Damn it, all of you deserve to die. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.